If you want that to work, you really gotta plug it in though.
Oh, it unplugged itself.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what happened. That's
my story,
I'm,
I'm
yeah,
sticking to it.
I'm on your side.
Yeah, I can tell. All kinds of support from you.
I just want to know why we're doing the Price City pool presentation in the board meeting and we're not at the pool.
With your swimming suit on?
Yeah,
We're not at the pool.
yeah. So why are we doing a Price City pool presentation in the boardroom and not at the pool?
Like 70% of the big busier.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
With, you know, with those drinks with the little umbrella.
Umbrella?
on top of it.
We can make it happen.
Yeah.
You just won't be able to wear your suits in there or anything like that.
Darn, okay.
Different kind of suit.
I'll wear my formal swimsuit.
The kind that's got the little straps over the top.
No, it has dignified Dickies on it.
Rather than see that, let's just stay here.
Superintendent, we ready?
Yes, sir.
Darren, we ready?
Yep.
All right.
If we can quiet down the cheap seats back there.
You're in the nosebleeds, you know?
We're solving real problems here.
We'd like to welcome everyone out to the meeting. This is the work session meeting for the Carbon School District. It is 3:32 p.m. Lee McCourt indicated she will be here in a few minutes. Beyond her, looks like everybody else is present. We expect Hunter will be joining us as soon as he gets off campus and over here. So,
He said it was gonna be good.
yeah. Anyway, so let's begin the work session. First thing on the agenda is a presentation by Price City about the pool.
We appreciate this time and especially, letting us be first on the agenda. How this all started was we started to reflect and start looking at our pool because of COVID. It really helped us start looking and inspecting a lot of our equipment. And from that inspection, how I am, noticed that we have a lot of problems. And then talking to the employees and the staff, it became apparent that we were in trouble and we were one stitch away from having a catastrophe. So I went to Mr. Hatch and said, I need help, and as a city. And so then we started sitting down and looking at numbers, and we had a meeting with Mr. Hatch and Mr. Lancaster. They came over. We had Greg Dart from USU. We talked about just the different issues and the problems, and then we started seeing what needed to be done. That's when we started putting this project list together of the items to be addressed. And there was two different categories of, of how much it would take to fix this pool. And I appreciate some of the board members being avid swimmers or fishes to see those problems also, and that's helpful to look at this. And is there items that we can pull off of this or leave? And that's the other part of developing this partnership with the school and the school district in Price City. So then, I don't know, Brett, if you wanted to talk about that or?
Okay. I was just gonna say, if you wanted to highlight a couple of those I thought were great ideas as we met with you, the access door and that could use a little explanation on what that would do for the pool area.
You bet.
So we've kind of seen this coming, and about 4 or 5 years ago, we had an engineering evaluation done on City Hall and the pool to make sure that the structures were worth rejuvenating, and the reports came back really positive. And then we started saving our ZAP tax money. So for 4 or 5 years, I've just been hoarding all that ZAP tax money and putting it aside and telling everybody, stay away from it. And we're at a point now where you've seen the liner, it's given way, we put the liner in as a patch. The pool is sinking, it's time where we really need to get something done now. And that's where we've come for help. So we've got 2 different options with the pool. This is called the Murtha system. It's kind of a system that's built in pieces and stainless steel and stuff. And as we looked into this one, the warranty really wasn't as good as we thought for the cost. And then we've got the plaster, like what we've had for 50 years. And when you look at the two, and we looked at everything else we could get done if we went with plaster. In fact, the plaster is giving us 50 years worth of a pool now. We thought that really this would be the best solution for us, is not go with the Murtha pool, but go with the plaster. And
Do you want to go down or? Okay.
and then we've got riding boards that have been there for 50 years as well. And then we've got the flags that we use for the swim team. An alarm system on our ventilation. One of the best things we could do to keep the life of that facility is keep that air circulated. When we started an evaluation 4 or 5 years ago, we learned that the ventilation fans on the top weren't even working. But they're so far out of reach, we could never tell. So we're gonna put in an alarm system to warn us if those go out. And then hanging the ceiling and the walls, it's got that beautiful wood ceiling. One of the most important things we can do is keep that in good shape, get that all sealed up and everything. Takes a lot of scaffolding work to make all that happen with the painting. More seating for the swim team. The swim team's really gaining popularity, the state champions, and so we're really fortunate because our pool has the bleacher section, which is something that a lot of pools, high school pools, don't have. And this would give us a way to even add more seating on the deck. And with that, Jeff can tell you how much storage we keep on that deck. What we'd like to do is put a door out that south wall so that we can wheel equipment in and out of those garages that are in the back and get them off the pool deck. To me, this is really quite important. That opens us up for more seating and people to meander around the deck space there. The new windows, they've been there a long time, and we'd like ones that we can open and close a little bit easier. Like I said, ventilation, circulation are key there. And then just some tile repair on the floors. So we can do, if we take the plan here with the plaster replacement and all these, we come up with $1.2 million. That's a significant saving over that Murtha pool option. And in looking into the Murtha pool, some places are saying it's still out. We're still not sure if that was the best way to go. So we think the plaster is really the best option for us. Are there any questions?
A couple. Your shotcrete. Are you going to be pulling the concrete off the walls and the floor and then putting in shotcrete and smoothing the surface? Or are you going to put another liner on top of that? Or-
No, we're gonna take the whole pool out.
Okay.
Because part of the problem we have is with the footings on the pool.
Sure.
So the whole thing will come out and it will be rebuilt as a brand new pool with the plaster finish.
So you'll just take the pool out of the building in pieces.
Yeah.
And then put in new steel.
Yeah.
And
See, one of the options we had a few years ago, before we put in that liner, was to evaluate if the rebar in the pool was still good.
Mhm.
Well, if you've got cracks, how can you count on the rebar? So we need to replace the entire pool.
If you go underneath, and I don't know if you guys have gone underneath that pool, you can see how it's been compromised. That the infrastructure, so you can see those things.
How long does this, like, if you were to start this process, how long is it going to take and what is the timeline for that?
We're hoping 2 to 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
it's
you-
quite a process because there's a lot of things that have to happen in stages. Getting the floor out there, getting scaffolding. We're gonna have to have a crew come in and completely scaffold in there. Get painting done, and a lot of things could be happening while that's happening, and then come in, and the last part we wanna do is the pool.
And when would you, I mean, when is the ideal time to do that?
Today.
Like-
Honestly, for season.
Like
seasonal,
right
Yeah.
now,
Seasonally,
so
yeah.
that it could be done by summer?
Yeah, we think it will probably be a month in the summer. Yeah. If we can get started on it soon.
And with construction, there's always, they're gonna run into the unknowns, and it might go a little bit long, so.
But this will only affect the indoor pool, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
So we
You know
saw the
what,
outdoor pool.
we can actually have swim meets in our outdoor pool.
Yeah, right. There's 8 lanes in the outdoor pool.
Yeah. And just to put everybody at ease, the bubble is coming down this year. We're having our first meeting next week.
So when you say new windows, are you talking just the new windows that are up high on the indoor pool?
Right, those vertical windows that you see.
Yeah.
They're actually a little bit unsafe. I don't know how long ago they were put in or.
Those are originals.
Yeah, they were the originals.
Oh, are they originals?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Hey, but to me, that's still new. I'm still mad for taking out the old outdoor pool.
Yeah, there you go. With the
Hey, but we have
greenhouse,
tennis courts.
oh,
Yeah, with
greenhouse that
the
was on the
zero
side, too.
entry, yeah.
Yeah, the kids love that zero entry. That's why that wave pool is so nice for them.
And so your access door ramp and, what, are you talking about the ramp into the pool?
No, so on that south wall, behind the diving boards,
Yep.
we're gonna do a cutout for a double door. And then there'll be a ramp that goes between the pool building and the garages that are in back.
Okay.
Yeah, that way we can wheel all those,
No way that and all
Lane
that
markers.
stuff
Yeah.
yeah.
Get 'em
into
off
that
of that.
spare building.
Yeah, that's one thing that's just bothered me for years, is all the stuff we store on the deck. I don't know how to store it.
So, and then as he talks about that additional seating, so where the lifeguard stand is on the west side of that pool, now you're putting some additional seating, so when we have these competitions, we're bringing in more people.
I'm assuming then you would put all the swimmers and coaches and teams on the west side of the pool and leave the part that's got the railing up for the spectators, or?
See,
You
I
think
don't
of
know
both?
that part.
That would be nice, wouldn't it, to have more space for them?
Well, because right now your teams are
Yeah,
taking up all the space.
exactly.
And they're hovering where the racers are starting and stopping. Yeah, that's good for them. Good point.
Now, I believe, this goes back a few years, your diving boards were removed, at least the high dive was lowered by 1/3 because of liability.
Insurance. yeah.
Yes. Are you thinking about putting it back up to the 3 meter, or are you gonna keep it down?
I think with the new pool, there would be an option to put it back up.
That's something, does the community, I mean, do we need those diving
That's,
boards? That's,
the dive team, what do they compete at? Do they
That depends.
compete at 3
We no
meters?
longer have a dive. They don't,
Yeah,
they don't compete on that.
Oh, well, they don't.
Yeah, well, what,
Well-
we had a state champion dive team too.
Yeah, not that long ago.
I mean, I remember. Well, not that I dive, but
Do you remember, did they compete at 3 meters or?
It depends on the dives they want to develop and do. They can compete at 1 meter or 3 meters.
So the problem we've got right now, and we did have a company build us a new stainless steel stand for that pool, diving board a while back. And when we did, we put it down to where the insurance company wanted it, because the slope on the pool doesn't go out far enough for the
Right.
divers. So,
Yeah, so all those things have to be decided before you decide, okay, are we gonna have 12 foot deep, or we're gonna keep it at 8 foot depth? And that's something else too. Are you thinking, if you only have a 1 meter diving board, even if you have 2 1 meter diving boards, you don't have to have a 12 foot deep pool. So I don't know if the city's talked about some of those things.
we're,
No.
we're considering that. Yeah, and we told that the school did not have a dive team, so that's,
Yeah, they
Well,
we
currently, we have had.
have had in the
So,
past. Yeah.
You know, the chance to have one in the future, we'd like to build in.
Diving isn't a sanctioned sport.
So they've done away with diving
I'm
then.
not saying that it would be down the road, but right now it's not sanctioned by any school.
The High School Activities Association doesn't think that.
Correct.
So if you look at page 2 and the priority list, I mean, obviously the pool renovation is top priority.
Yeah.
What, do you think it's necessary to move on with all the rest of the others? I mean, is it kind of a all or nothing, or do you think with
Okay,
your
so-
prioritization, if you did the pool now and then did some of the other things later?
okay, and that's a really good question. The walls and the ceiling, I think, are really important because it seals everything up from the moisture. That ceiling, I'm surprised it's done as well as it has over the years because it's exposed wood. When it was put in, they did a really good job sealing that up. And the same with the walls. So this is vital to get that all sealed up.
And really, if you're doing that, then the rest of the stuff is nothing. You know, if I'm looking at the whole picture,
Yeah,
if you say that those two things are really, I mean, you've got to do them, both of them or none, then the other things
Well,
are.
to put it in perspective, you're gonna have scaffolding up to get, to achieve the painting on that ceiling. So then you're basically, you can get your windows, you can get other
Right.
items.
Ventilation.
Right.
yeah. And I have to say it, in my mind, I don't want to sink my ship here. I hope I don't, but that ceiling, if we don't reseal that ceiling, then we're doing a big mistake in doing the whole project. After 50 years with that being exposed.
Thank you.
So is this financing looking just the ZAP tax and the school district? Have you talked to the recreation department? Have you talked to USU Eastern? And what are their levels of participation? Are they saying, we're just not in a position?
Right now, USU doesn't feel like the facility is enough draw for their students. Even though in their student fees for $5, those students at USU can go swimming.
Yeah, they also have a gym class
And
in the curriculum.
yeah, and you don't see the numbers yet, but will we?
Yeah.
I hope.
Well, I'm just saying from
Yeah.
experience, I see college kids coming in, they usually use the wave pool. So,
So, and here's another thing to think about as we talk about this. If we use the ZAP tax money and, half of the school board's money, then basically there's other equipment that needs to be addressed in there that we could focus on also. And that's part of this presentation. We're gonna need this partnership because there's equipment and I'd love to take you on the tour to show you. They've been doing a great job with what they have right now.
So if the city sought any grants or any funding from any other, I mean, I know you've asked for participation,
So
but
we went to CIB, oh gosh. I can't remember now, 3-4 years when we got the new bubble. And they told us not to come back for money for a pool. But they put up some money and then we used that tax at that point to replace the bubble. So we did use that resource once. Yeah.
all right, any other
I have a question.
questions?
What kind of longevity does it look like if this happens? When's the next time we're gonna have to come back to this?
Okay. I think you missed the first part.
Yeah.
The pool we have now is over 50 years old. And that's one of the reasons we thought going with plaster was still a good option for us. if you get another 40, 50 years on that pool, I think that facility has done really well. And what we're planning on, the money we've asked the school board for is about half of this. What we're actually putting aside is the rest, any overruns, plus money so that we can resurface, because plaster needs resurfacing about every 8 to 10 years. And so we're putting money away so we can continue that. And our plan is for, like I said, 40 to 50 years. We had an engineering evaluation done on the building before 4 or 5 years ago. And they said that the building itself is solid.
I guess that was just my question, because in personal opinion, I might be kind of biased because of swimming, but I think that when they put that liner in, I think that's when this should have happened, and it should have been like a buy it nice or buy it twice.
It should have, yeah.
But that's my opinion. But.
No, that's a good opinion. And we costed it out at that point too. But what we've been able to do since we've had that liner in is save up our Zaptax money. And that's where we can get to the point where we have.
And that liner has been in for at least 8 years, I believe.
We got more years out of that than we're
Yeah.
supposed to.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, since then, we replaced the bubble and now we're hoping to do the full.
I think it's really great, but
We
Because
try to
I
do-
just, my question is if we agree that, you know, it's a worthy project, but not quite the 600,000. That, you know, if we say we're not, you'll take whatever we can get you, right?
Sure.
And then,
no.
and then possibly, you know, I mean, look elsewhere for some other.
And that's the thing, if I'd be more than welcome, or any of us would be more than welcome to take you and show you what we're talking about. After a little tour, yeah, you would say, yeah.
And I've been there. I'm a swimmer too.
You know, one of the correlations I draw to the wave pool, or excuse me, to the swimming pool facility is it's this community's Disneyland. It means so much to this community in so many different perspectives. You've got the swim teams, you've got the public use. But then we employ a lot of kids from the high schools and stuff. And those kids, I think, get a really good first job learning experience at the pool. It's run really well. Kids learn how to work, they learn how to take responsibility. The pool provides such a service to the community in so many different.
So the rest of the stuff that the public doesn't see, like your disinfection system and all that's up to stuff and still working well, or is that going to be something the city wants to replace if you have additional funding? Or that's my question, I guess.
Pumps, motors, and everything, we keep up on those pretty good. The other part of the facility, over the last few years, we've got ourselves to where we have an extra pump usually on hand. When one fails, we take it in, we get it rebuilt, or we swap out, put in a new one. Our electrical system still needs some work. Last couple of years, we replaced some large breaker panels. We still have a couple left to go. That just the nature of the environment is
It's
a
wet.
lot of deterioration.
It's got chlorine in the air. Yeah, that's right. That's why you can smell it.
Yeah, so we've got a few more things besides the pool that we do really need to fix as well.
I'd like to see a splash pad and a play area for.
Well, that has nothing to do with
I know.
indoor pool.
Okay, let me talk to you about that one. So a couple years ago, we had some money set aside for a play feature like that. But because of the state of the pool, we locked that money down. And once we get this done, that's gonna be our next project. What we were looking at, in fact, was an extension on the wave pool that brought out an area for a play feature.
To the south?
Yes, to the south. But we knew that if we did something like that the money was gonna cost, that would delay this project even more. And we've got to do this before we can go into anything else, but I'll tell you what, we've got plans for that. We would love it.
I really thought when they started building that garden on, first and third east,
Hunter's Project,
I thought that was gonna be a wave pool, a
The
splash
splash
pad
pad.
for kids.
I guess you could put one there.
Yeah.
There's enough water there, I'll tell you. There's enough groundwater.
The groundwater, just pump it.
Well, obviously, it's an asset of the county, and is the county been approached as well?
They have not. I don't know if
Well-
they would support.
Well,
it.
it's a value to them, just like it is to us, meaning the city,
Yeah.
meaning whatever, I mean, I live in the county, but I go to the pool too, you know what I mean? So it's definitely an asset to the county. Obviously, the county, I think, should be approached at least.
And I think Keith makes a good point that if you live out in the county, you don't pay more to go to the pool. It's the same cost to go in, even though it's a city-funded event, facility, everybody gets treated equally.
They just raised everybody's taxes.
Yeah.
Well, wherever you get the money,
Have to
it's
pay more
gonna,
in the county
it's
session.
gonna
It's
get
about
some,
time.
you know,
Yeah, I
somebody's gotta
agree.
pay for it, you know what I mean?
You know, and that- so we were sensitive to that, that's why.
I just didn't know if they had been approached
No.
at all.
We had worked with them before, we were trying to get a rec center option going. And here we are.
And that's why my first question was about the recreation district. They are gonna be able to help out at all. So, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions from anyone? No? Thank you, gentlemen. This is,
Thank you very much.
because it's our work session right now, it's on our agenda for later in the evening.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
Thank you.
it's up to you, Hunter.
No pressure.
They don't know is that I have 8 votes.
Yeah, that's right.
You only need 4.
8 or none.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'll.
Okay. Capital projects prioritization is the next item on the list. I think this is all about buses.
Right.
And I know we all had a chance to answer a questionnaire again the last beginning of the week or something like that. So I don't know if that's gonna be all part of that. We're gonna talk about transfer. Oh, Bruce just stepped out. We're gonna have to wait for him.
We'll get to the bus.
Yeah, the bus is just one small, tiny part of this. so.
Sure.
Not so tiny, but.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I see it's turned for the cheaper buses this coming year. We just bought the expensive ones.
I tell you what, I was looking at the cost. It's like 20 years. Buses have doubled in price.
Yeah.
Yeah, 55, 6,000 was the oldest bus, and then it's gone up, it's.
But if you look at the number of passengers and engine style, all that stuff, it's gone from 75 to 170, well, 150.
144
Yeah,
the last one.
They have gone up quite a bit. Do you want to look at the bus,
Yes.
data first?
We gotta make them sweat a little bit.
That is a part of this.
I'm all for
Maybe
that.
I took over too soon, Superintendent, do you want to
Yeah, I'll take it back and
take it back and bring up that?
go to that.
So, Lori and Bruce, put together this information on the buses that we currently have. It sounds like at least a few of you have gone over this and looked at that, but I'll let Bruce maybe take a few minutes and talk about or answer any questions related to the bus fleet that we have currently. There's one that's not, if you look down bus type, there's one that's blank. That's a C style bus as well, a C type C.
And, I mean, it's not really an acronym. What's the difference between a C and a D? Is that the flat nose versus the engine out
Yeah,
front?
so the
Well,
D is the pusher.
I'll let me jump on that because I had to learn. I had to learn a little bit about that.
I won't ask you to state your name for the record, but at least come up.
Just look at the prior 15 years. The difference is the chassis. Most of the Ds are the flat nose, what they call non-traditional, but it's depends on the Cs are truck chassis, and those are the ones where you see with the engines in the front. And they're typically a smaller turning radius, but they don't have near the cargo space, et cetera, or the seating capacity that a D has. That being said, we have some smaller special needs buses, which the engine is either behind or where the driver is, so the driver's in front of the wheels. They're D, but they're C chassis. They're a smaller chassis. But for all intents and purposes, a D is your bigger bus. The C is a traditional with the engine in the front. We alternately, talking with Terry, have purchased some of C's in the last few years, off and on, alternating year to year, or every other year, I should say, because we do have need for those buses in some of our outlying areas.
So one question for me, it shows the mileage, but I've realized mileage doesn't necessarily mean or show the condition of the bus. Meaning it can have a lot of miles on it, but still be working fine and running fine.
Absolutely.
So I don't know, are all these, I assume all these are running and working and
Yes, yes.
in good order that way?
So what's happens, our mechanics get to the point where they're just saying this particular bus, and there are buses which might be 10 years older than a bus that we will surplus out because the maintenance on those buses.
You mean 10 years younger than the other?
Yeah, 10 years younger than a bus. We'll surplus that out.
Yeah, because of the maintenance
Because of the
costs.
maintenance.
So do we know which ones you're wanting to surplus out then? Which ones are you?
For this next year,
Yeah.
number 41, bus number 41, and bus number 15.
Is on the very bottom of the top.
2 and 4.
So in 99 and 2002.
So I'm assuming then you're you're gonna ask for two 84-passenger buses and.
Well, that's what they just bought in
Yeah,
December.
that's what we
So it's
purchased
back to
in
the 72.
But you're waiting till December again to buy 2 more.
Correct. It'll be, well, we'll order them, okay.
Yeah.
Buses are manufactured. They do not build a bus until it is ordered. It's not like you can just drive someplace and pick up a bus. So we're actually looking at picking up 2 C-class buses for
Less expensive.
this next year. Because we just got 2 Class D, which are numbers, the 161 and 162. And those first come in as our activity buses for the trips because they have large spaces underneath for equipment, et cetera, in a larger capacity.
So where these are Cs, are they gonna be the 84 passengers,
No,
Seventy-two.
they'll be a 72 passenger, a smaller a turning radius, a smaller, they're easier to maneuver.
Better
because-
for routes.
Yes, they will be a route bus.
So they'll be the same buses as 159 and 160 then, really?
Correct.
And then you order them at, let's say, the beginning of the year. Do you pay for them at the end of the year when they're delivered?
Yes.
Do they lock in a price or are you subject to?
Yes.
Okay.
That happens after capital outlay. We get that ball rolling. It's, the invoice contract is in July, but then it is November, December before they're delivered.
So Darren, will this come out of 21-22's fiscal?
This whole budget that we're looking
Yeah,
at is a 22.
We
year
start
budget.
spending it on July 1, basically.
And then is there a market for bidding, so to speak, meaning one company makes buses, that's it? You go through?
No, there's, in the state, well, for instance, Emory County, they actually travel to Georgia. Their bus director, et cetera, they travel to Georgia, pick the bus up and bring it back themselves because they say it's a little cheaper, but if you talk to Roger, by the time they're done, it's about 6s. here in Utah, you have the three major, you have International, Bluebird, and then, sorry. Thomas, thank you. Just come on up here. You do have manufacturers here in Utah or in the Intermountain West who we can bid out to, and they come back and say, depending on what you want on them, and it's just like your family vehicle, you can get so many things now on buses, but some of it we scale down.
Do we usually stick to a certain, I don't know, brand or company because our mechanics like that, can work on them easier? So what I'm saying is if there's three distributors,
Bluebird
we parts
and-
of the one because of,
Bluebird and International are the two.
The last few years, we've gone with International. All three of them are on state bid, so we don't have to go through the bidding process. But the Internationals, there are a couple of really good features. They've been lasting and running really well. We haven't had any problems. And we've been able to include a 10-year warranty where they will fix almost everything for us, except for minor little things.
Nice.
And that's because you can go to the bus garage and there'll be a Bryson technician there working on one of our buses.
perfect, thank you.
I'm guessing these buses will come outfitted with being the hot spot for just the travel buses, and they can do homework with
Not
them?
if we don't add that on there.
Okay, so, but we do need to add, that. We can add those on though?
Correct.
We have it on any of our current buses, but Wi-Fi hotspots on.
That's something that I-
Camera check.
It is quite expensive, excuse me, not to get the hotspots there, but to pay for the monthly fee through, you'd have to go through
Verizon or something like that, yeah.
And they still don't work when you go over the mountain anyway.
We've debated on the value of that, based on, how often will the kids use that, and you're paying for it every month regardless of whether anybody uses it or not. And so we just really haven't thought that would, anyway, at this point.
We've looked at maybe putting a couple on our dedicated activity buses for the students who might leave at 1 o'clock in the afternoon traveling to Richfield. There would be spots where obviously when they could be there and be doing some of their work, especially with the online capability.
We've also talked about with other districts, there's the possibility of working it out to where our students' Chromebooks have access to their Wi-Fi, because it's not that often the kids, while they're traveling, need to use it, but while they're sitting at an event.
Yep.
So there's this, I can't remember what it's called, but there's an agreement amongst districts where we're trying to work something out to where that can happen. Anyway.
So where the varsity team's waiting for the JVs to play, they can be doing homework and vice versa.
Right.
Yeah.
So we do have a question that has come to us about the occasional need to contract out with a commercial provider of a bus. And so that did happen recently. The 3A basketball state championship tournament happened to fall on a day where there was a lot of other things. Would you mind going through how that happened?
Yeah. There's once in a while that being a transportation supervisor puts you in a panic mode, but it's when you have, what happened, we had state tournament started on a Thursday. At the same time, we had junior highs traveling to their ball games, basketball games on a Thursday. One was going to San Rafael, the other one to Green River with their junior high tournaments. We had an FFA competition in Box Elder. We also had on that day Mount Harmon Cheer, they were going to a cheer competition, I believe at Utah County. At the same time, we also, and so that was 4 buses we needed for activities, and then state. You had the 2 teams, boys and girls. Then you had cheer, drill, band, and administration wanted to take a student bus. So that was 10 buses in one day. We don't have that many extra buses because we still have to run our routes. Occasionally, in talking with Lori Jensen, our admin secretary, sometimes we can say, okay, we're going to send Mont Harmon to Canyon View for basketball. You're going to leave at 1, but we can get back in time to do a route. So we can do that. We also don't have that many sub-drivers to be able to either take the route or the trip. There's, that's 10 extra people we would have needed for that day. So that's why we had a couple of late activities that said they hadn't asked for a bus yet, and then they did. So initially I said, we don't have the buses. And that was high school. That was, because they just, are we going to take the student bus? Are we not going to? Initially I was.
Are we even going to make the tournament?
Yeah. I mean, you have that, and then all of a sudden it all came together. And
Right, so you have all the regular season things and the competitions.
Correct.
FFA, they've all booked those way in advance, and now you've got these late, just qualifying that.
So who do I say no
reserve
to?
it.
And that's
Those that have
when,
already reserved it, or?
and I asked Darren, is there a possibility to see if we can contract out a couple of buses? We were able to cover 7 or 8. We felt pretty comfortable about that, as long as I didn't have to drive. It's a safety issue, but.
What does that mean when you say you contract out, meaning with who?
Like Smith Transit?
We contacted Smith's Transit and said, is there a possibility? And that was on that Thursday of the week before, and saying, is there a possibility you could help us out here? Otherwise, we would have had to have said no. And they said, well, yeah, I think they're a little slow, but then we thought, well, we were able to work it out, and then a couple of late high school programs said, well, we're going to go. One was an athletic team, and the other one was the student bus. And I said, we can't cover it, and so I called Smith's back.
So there's 2 situations where we have in the past gone with like a Smith Transit, a commercial line. And one is risk management has asked that if we go outside of the state, that we not take our buses, but we use commercial. So we will use them in those situations because they come with an insurance policy. And once we cross state lines, we don't have the governmental immunity anymore. So we'll use commercial lines for that. And then in these types of situations, we have maybe once every couple of years, we've run into this situation. So it's not enough that we feel it justifies buying a couple, another bus or 2 to have on hand in case we get tight on these routes. We feel it's more economical to hire it out for that occasional event.
And what do they charge? What is it like?
Well, this one, they asked, and Corey Smith responded, and he said, well, we'll do it for what you guys estimate your cost per mile. And that's when I talked with Gary a couple of times, and it varies. And so I gave them a number of $3.25 a mile. It varies between $3 and $3.50 depending on the year. Like right now, in the fall, our prices are a little cheaper because of gas now.
They're going up.
They're going up. So that fluctuates, but that was the number we used, and he matched that number, which was nice.
So I just have one more
So
question.
basically, it didn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
It cost us that.
It didn't cost us any additional.
Yes, that's.
Let me say it that way.
So one question, so obviously we just barely did it. When was the time prior to that we've done something like that? Like a
Well, I
year or two or 6
I
months?
think
We didn't go with them at all this last year, go with any companies. Like
Can I tell you what's
it's been
happened?
2 years.
Well, I'll tell you what's happened is we've said no. When I say we, the bus garage said we cannot do that. Sorry, student bus, principal, we don't have a bus.
So my only question is, so we said no before, why don't we say no this time? I mean, is there circumstances that then make this, I mean, I just want to know the consistency of that, meaning who decides, yeah, this time yes, last time no? Is it a policy? Is it just something?
There's not a policy. I asked, and I said, well, let me see, and if they were able to do it for at least what we would have been able to do it, I made that decision.
Okay, so it's basically on you.
Yeah.
To make that. I'm not saying good or bad, I'm just saying that's where it is.
Well, it's tough.
You're it.
I know, being a prior building administrator, and that's hard when you look at FFA and say, sorry, you can't go to your competition.
Oh, yeah. I know.
And we've had, so I'm like, if we can do this without saying no, and I made that choice.
Okay, so on the, like this last time, did we take students up there on a bus, for example?
Yeah, they had a student bus that went.
Now, when I say student, not the participants,
Right.
but the school.
Student body bus.
Student body.
But wasn't there, this is just a question, so the wrestling, for example, they could only have tickets for 4, let's say, and that was it, that was the rule. Obviously, it must have been
Instead
different.
of going by student, they just went by capacity of the
Yeah.
facility, and then they stopped people coming in after they met that.
And
That
that
was
was,
one of the differences with wrestling is with wrestlers, teams have to stay there all day because they may compete.
Yeah, and I know that was different. I mean, swimming, for example, was, nobody could go, mom and dad couldn't even go. So I recognize there was some differences there, or, whatever.
Those are established by the UHSAA. We basically just receive, here's how we're gonna run our tournament, and and that's how that works.
So is there any concerns regarding COVID, for example? Obviously, in a bus where it's confined, did we restrict the number of students who are going to be on the bus that went, or we just took a bus full, or what happened there?
It's
They
this-
do 40
we went with-
seats.
They did 40 out of the however many is possible, so, but I don't think they had all 40. I think they had 30 or something.
We just basically followed our southeastern guidelines. We haven't
No, and
ran COVID capacity with any of our events. In fact, swimming, we have to take 2 buses for swim because of the number of students, and that's
So
2
many
each seats.
so in COVID, I can see that COVID works for you and works against you both. Meaning, like you say, if because of COVID, you could normally take a swim team with 1 bus, now you gotta take 2, so you double up your workload.
So
So,
I meant there were so many participants.
no,
Right.
I guess,
That's what Keith was
but in a non-COVID year, you can load the bus full. On a COVID year, every other seat or whatever, so that's gonna tie up 2 buses instead of 1 bus, for example, as a possibility or whatever. So it works for you, it works against you, so to speak, so. Anyway, I get that.
so the $3.25 to Smith Transit, did that include the driver's time, or did we pay his per
Yes,
diems? and-
All
we did pay for his room.
Okay,
Whichever team that driver, and I made that decision on,
sure.
hey, it's a basketball state, let's send them on the bus. They had to make sure that there was a room for that driver, just like they would have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know I had a couple of drivers who were like, I said, come here, figure this out for me, guys, or I can say no. So that was.
So just one more question for me, and I'll be done, I'm sure. And that is, for example, when a bus is chartered, who decides who rides the chartered bus? So for example, let's say you got swimming going on and you got basketball going on, let's say, you've got to have another bus. I get that. Okay, who rides the chartered bus? Obviously, the chartered bus could go here, it could go here. Does that fall on you solely, Bruce, as well?
Yeah, because I don't think we've ever been in that situation where we've had to charter because of 2 different entities. We've had,
Well, where you
I
got,
would make that decision.
that's what I'm saying, so where it's diversified, meaning where where swimming's going that way, basketball's going that way, you know that. Well, I would think that
I would assume.
you would say,
Probably whoever went,
Yeah, I would assume it's the closest, the fewest
Correct.
miles that we'd have to pay extra for.
that's what I was gonna say.
I'm good with a rule, meaning closest, whatever, but I just think it's unfair, let's say, for the basketball team to always have the chartered
But
bus
it's
or
happened
whatever.
so rarely.
Well, I get that,
So-
but it's still noticed by the kids and by parents. They notice who's getting that chartered bus every time. And so I just think it's something we ought to be cognitive of. We ought to be sensitive to it to some degree.
When basketball, when you say out of state, that could have been anybody who's traveling out of state. We've had not just basketball, it's been other entities.
No, I get it. I appreciate knowing, like Darren said, that, for example, if you go out of state, they recommend to get charter bus and go. So that's the trigger, so to speak, for that team to go on that. But if everything's within the same proximity, we're right here an hour away or 2 hours away, I just
And we've never had that in that.
well, that's why I asked the question, how long ago has it been? So we just had it, we had it 5 years ago, whatever, but if it happens regularly, we ought to be,
We gotta be cognizant that it's being done fairly and not, yeah.
the students are noticing and the parents are noticing. I just think we ought to either one, have a policy where we rotate that a little bit or something. It just causes a little bit of yank.
On a little bit different note, I would appreciate you passing it on to Smith Transit, our gratitude for their community-minded, for their support of the school district.
Oh, absolutely.
Will you please pass
They-
that on, that the board's grateful for
To be able
for what they
to,
did, and we recognize what they did.
and I did, I let Corey.
A short
and
notice,
Him.
good pricing.
Good pricing, yeah.
You know, I worked out just, I think we went to Richfield, right? Isn't that where the bus went to? So we paid under $1,000.
And that, I recognize now that it kind of put Bruce in a tough situation to have to decide who gets to use those buses, but at the same time, when you think of how many buses were having to go to Richfield and why, you know, they were going because we had two teams who qualified to go to the tournament. Without that, none of the other buses are needed, you know, so I don't know, I kind of think, I know that's a tough situation to be in. I wasn't part of that thought process or anything like that, but yeah, I don't know if we need a policy or practice or something, but.
I just think
some-
the best general policy is the fewest miles. Then we're off the hook.
Yeah, you'll have to.
That's good feedback, I appreciate that.
Okay, no, good. Nice show.
Appreciate
I
it.
think
Thanks.
you ought to be the first one that put the request in. I think you know, consent it.
Well, I believe.
Now, there's experience, I mean, there's,
It's not sure. It's-
That means the teams, though, that actually made the tournament didn't know until the last minute that they made the tournament. They don't
We'll,
get the
we'll let
bus.
helpers show up at San Rafael in the travel bus. Yeah, we're going to Canton.
Ever has the best record.
So, that's our capital projects list then. I guess I'd give it an opportunity. Does anybody have any follow-up questions on any particular projects?
From this list, you mean?
Yeah, from the list that we've looked at.
I think we're all kind of wondering how things turned out with the new, you know,
Did it
we had new numbers, new
Yeah.
priority.
And so this board priority, column J, is the revised, the new prioritized list. So, and right now I have sorted these in order of the priority. And so if you want, we can just go through these. Let's see, I'm not trying to get this as big as possible. You can't see the location on this. I can shrink it down.
There we go.
but then you can't see the cost, but, so, got one or the other. So for now, let's set the cost to the side, let's just look at the projects and, because I think if I go any smaller, you won't be able to see it, but.
Can you pull your column with locate, make C and G both a little smaller, a little narrower?
G.
There you go.
Getting there. Let me just hide it.
Yeah, the priorities are.
Priority
a
was
couple
pretty
of-
wide too.
That.
There we go.
Okay, so we had the additional swings at Castle Valley Center with the hardware at Sally Morrow. Security cameras are always one that ranks high. Sensor systems that the science teachers have requested at the high school. Some custodial equipment at Helper, Wellington playground equipment, Castle Valley, additional playground equipment. Wood chips, we are trying to do a little bit at each location, but Sally Morrow and there's Broom Point. The Sally Morrow design work to look at a potential.
So I have a question. I'm looking at the estimated cost here. Oh, that's a running cost.
Sorry, the
That's a
far right
running
is the
total.
running total, yeah.
Okay.
There's a big difference between 20,000 and
Is there 5 schools we're
364,000.
No, that's a shock. You see that, just for design work, 20,000 is our estimate there. The kindergarten pits, filled in at Castle Heights. Cabinetry at Sally Morrow in Wellington. Fridge for the fax lab at Helper. And sinks in that, replacing the sinks in the cabinetry in Sally Morrow, in those 3 pods. So more custodial equipment at Sally Morrow, high schools, stage lighting upgrade. And then replace those dim lights in the Sally Morrow cafeteria. Cabinetry at Creekview, and then the Creekview parking lot expansion. At this point, if we're running that total, we've reached $1 million. And then Helper's 4-wheeler request, Carbon High water bottle filling stations, replacing the drinking fountains with drinking fountains that have those stations. Van storage system, and then expanding the lunchroom at Mount Harmon. Now, the update on this one, there's a real question about the cost. It's difficult to pin down, but we've been talking with Holy Naylor, Wentworth, and London, and Hogan, John from Hogan offered their work with the bond a little bit to come over and take a look at this. And there isn't a detailed design at this point, but they feel like what we've described we'd like to accomplish could be done for $500,000. So with an approval on this project, we would begin designing and bring back to you exactly what that would look like. At this point, with that Creekview parking lot, we have a very specific design. We don't with Mount Harmon yet, but they were confident about that as a budget to accomplish what we. Of course, that's a big ticket item, those 2, and so that takes us a little over a bit over $1.5 million. On the lower end of the list, we had replacement of teacher desks at a couple of the schools, Wellington and Sally Morrow. Playground equipment for Broom Point. The sound system at Creekview. I didn't put a price in the price or cost in Tri-Cities pool here, but maintenance had requested an excavator, Mini-X, and a forklift. We still are using a swamp cooler at Sally Morrow offices. And so that would be a replacement there, and kitchen. And then resurface of the blacktop. Blake's not here right now. I think administration put this one quite low just because the condition of it isn't as bad as in other schools. And then as far as their parking lot, there's still some ambiguity about what we'll do in the future there. Digital marquee at Creekview, carpet at Broom Point front office, track at Castle Valley Center, and then doing a storage room in the front foyer of Castle Heights. Those are our lower priority items.
What's a magic number? What's the
Well,
number
let's
we're
talk-
trying to get?
Yeah, let's
Go back
talk
up just a little
budgets here.
bit. Let's see.
Let me,
Let's see.
I wanted to see the difference in priority on lunchroom.
so based on,
Can you
Yes.
go back to those priorities for just a second
Yes.
up to Mount Harmon?
go
the-
to,
On the lunchroom,
On Mount Harvest Luncheon?
yes, so we've got
3.6.
3.6 and 4.8. Okay, I wanted to see what the spread was on that. Thank you.
Yep. So, based on our tax rates for this year, now it's not until June that we set the tax rates for the year we're actually talking about, the 22 fiscal year, the 21-22 school year. Keep in mind, that's the budget we're looking towards. So I'm using this year's tax rates, and we don't see a huge fluctuation in our tax rates from year to year. So I'm assuming we'll receive about $3.3 to $3.4 million in capital funds, specific to capital for the 22 year budget. From that, last month, Philip presented his budget request, and that was $456,000. In our general maintenance, we've talked about this in the past, that this fluctuates from year to year because it just depends on what breaks, what stops working, what do we have to maintain, what do you have to upgrade, and some years less than others, but I have always kind of carried in my mind about $1 million keeps us safe on most everything we've encountered year to year. And so I take that off the top.
Like a water main at Carbon High?
Yeah, or a fire system around Mount Harmon, some of the things that we run into. With those expenses in mind, that leaves us with $1.9 million of capital outlay. If on this list, and these are just examples, but so if on our list, we draw that line at 1.2 million, for example, then we're gonna say, well, we saved, there's 700,000 that we're adding to our fund balance. Or
What do we usually do?
if you say, let's draw that line at $1.7 million, then that just reduces how much we save. The total amount we expect to have of $1.9 million would actually cover pretty much everything on that list. When we go back to that list, you'll see that's the full list,
Except the pool.
without the pool, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's huge.
But we've often found that based on prioritization, we've prioritized saving some money for later more than some of the projects that have been requested.
Right, which is different. I mean, sometimes we've got over $3 million worth of requests.
Yeah, and so it just depends from year to year.
And can you tell us where we are at in our savings right now?
So, great question. So,
Cool.
with our fund balance, of course, the last year we've completed was fiscal year 20. We're currently in fiscal year 21. So at the end of fiscal year 20, we had just over $2 million in our savings or our fund balance. For
What did we budget to save?
So that is also a
Good question.
So in 2021, we budgeted the approval that the list where we drew the line would have had us saving $500,000. As if you remember when we went through our update on those projects from this year, we're under budget on several of them, and so we're about 130,000 under from what we had budgeted. And so add that to the 500,000 we were already planning to save, and we should add about 630,000 to that fund balance at the end of this year.
2.7?
This,
So,
Yeah.
but this doesn't, that 2 million does not even include does that include our 19 that you're anticipating we're gonna get? Or is this just in our savings, our fund balance carryover from year to year?
Yeah, this is from the prior years, so that,
Yeah, so
that 1.9 million
Is in
that's out
addition
there
to
for fiscal year 22 is coming up here. So I'm anticipating we end this current fiscal year with 2.7 million in that.
So this is kind of our saving for the future rainy day.
And we've had-
emergency.
We've had it up pretty high at times.
well, and we've saved this we built the whole addition to Broom Point
Yeah,
off of this.
Right.
We were just talking, we were almost at 6 million at that point, right? When we
Yeah,
took
we've
So that's-
about
fluctuated.
2.5 million and put it in Broom Point.
Yeah,
So-
And then we
my
spent
time here.
6 million on Mount Harmon.
yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah, so we,
So that's, I mean, we used the savings.
We've used it,
to
so we've
do-
needed it at times to
we
have that.
paid
be
for,
up.
we paid for the construction of Broom Point without going
Right,
out.
without a bond.
And then it goes down, and then we save over a few years, and we do various projects, and the most notable one was Mount Harmon at about $6 million. We completed it down, then we moved it back up, and so, what we save keeps us from having to go out to bond for smaller things.
Yeah.
$6 million for smaller.
Yes. Yeah, well, you never know, you know?
But it is nice, and I guess
Yeah.
kudos to Darren but the administrative team, the principals of all the buildings who understand this, even the teachers, because they understand that we don't give everything out to staff and whatever else. We want to put money aside because it is so much better for us to be able to cash flow some of our projects
Yeah.
instead of have to go out every year or two to get a loan and a loan
Like
and a
the pool.
loan and a loan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then with Melissa's question about, well, this year, if we have 1.9 to spend, wherever we draw that line and what we're gonna spend in that capital, the last example we used, if it's 1.7, that we set the budget at, we said that would leave us with 226,000 in savings, just as an example. So then we end that next year at just under 3 million. So the big question then is
Mhm.
the swimming pool. So, do we want to invest in the swimming pool?
And you're saying we're gonna draw the line at $1.7 million on your line right there.
In
As
this
opposed to the
example.
1.2 that we
In
did
this
last
example,
year.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, or if we did it, my earlier example, 1.2, you'd be adding 700,000.
Yeah, but I think we've got two different questions there. One is, do we, and to how much do we want to participate in the pool?
Right.
Which I think that's an aside to how much can we put away for savings after we've paid for all the capital outlay.
And do we need everything on that one?
And, right, we got to prioritize it, sure.
and I really, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, but I just Googled grants for city swimming pools, and there's a bunch out there. And I think he kind of tripped himself up when he said, then we'll use what's left over for other projects. And I personally, I think going for that project is fine, but I really wouldn't like to do the full 600,000. I mean, I guess that's pretty clear.
Well, I personally would say we'd have to choose between Mount Harmon and the pool if we were doing
And have you been over to Mount
that
Harmon
amount of
very
money,
much?
because I think
Yeah.
it's more than,
In years past, to get the surplus, is that just a yearly decision? Or is there like a percentage that you shoot for? It's just,
It's a year-to-year kind of thing. And it's,
We have aimed for $500,000
Every
year
okay.
to year. is
but
what
it's
we've
driven
been-
by these
These
needs. right?
priorities.
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the challenge for the board is to decide a couple of things today. Is it today that we have to decide the capital projects? No.
It's public.
Yeah, so
public input.
is to decide where to draw that line. Is it between 28 and 29? Or is it between 27 and 28? And then additionally, today, to decide
Right.
to what degree, if any, do we participate in the pool project? So, yeah. And both of those are coming up in the action
I just
items.
look at the
I
board,
think
though, when
we
you
need
look at
to
what the board is
consider
saying
what
on there.
is best for the kids,
A
too,
lot more
Well,
energy than-
for the
do
large
too.
amount of kids.
In the past, in our participation with the city, first of all, we wouldn't have those baseball fields over there if it wasn't for the city,
Right,
period,
And we invested 1.2 million into those.
into those. And they got us 1.8 million to be able to do that. 1.8 or was
Yeah.
it was it 3.5 million or was it just 3?
Yeah, it was 1.8.
Got us right up to 3 million.
To
3 million. So they've already done that. When they say the rest, I think they have more in their ZAP tax fund than $600,000. And I think that I'm assuming because I caught that from what was written down here, they basically said the same thing as what was written in our information they gave us.
But
I
I'm
was
leaning,
just gonna say, I had a conversation with Brett Cammons about what if the board, just trying to determine does it have to be this year? What if the board doesn't improve it? What if we don't do anything to participate? And he said, we'll continue saving our ZAP tax. It's taking us 4 years to get half of it. I don't know what else they bring in ZAP tax, but whatever they set aside for this. And he says, we would just plug along. We're going to do the project. It might be in 4 or 5 more years. But as he mentioned, that liner that they have right now
It's past its life.
it's past its time.
And the partnership that we have developed and continue to have with the city from the youth council up to these particular projects is very valuable. And the tennis courts, we have greatly benefited from this partnership. And I'm kind of reticent not to just throw in and say, we're partners and let's make this happen, because the day in and day out general use of those pools over there are by and large our students, our student age people. We benefit tremendously from those pools.
I understand
like
that,
saying
but I
that
hate
the
to
city
see it
park-
take away
I know,
from.
I know, yeah,
I-
just like
I
the
don't
city
feel
park.
hard.
But the city park doesn't have our swim teams
right,
participating.
but it's not just our
in that.
students, it's every child.
Right.
It's
But-
the nature
But
of
by and
being
large,
the
that
youth
age group,
in the city or
right.
out in the county.
And I was stretching there a little bit, but
And I don't have a problem with the partnership, because I've seen us work very well with the tennis courts and the baseball, but I am constantly reminded that the part that's getting paid for at the baseball fields is us, not the city. City got grant. We're paying the 1 point whatever
Yeah.
million
But,
every
but-
year.
But they were willing
That's
to
right.
go through all that effort to make
No doubt
that
about it.
and bring us
A
in. 'cause
grant
it
that we
would-
could not apply
Yeah,
for.
we could not apply.
Sure.
So,
I was just disappointed that there was no other partners requested yet
Yeah, that is,
to assist in the funding.
And
I just
Yeah,
assumed
the
that was
assumption-
going on in the
County
background.
the assumption that the school district will just do
Do
it
it,
right.
is troublesome.
Yeah, that's right. They didn't pursue the county or whoever.
From like a student perspective right now, I think that swimming is really huge. Like you have a team that has 3 state titles that they've just won consecutively. And I think that it would be a big mistake to wait that 4 to 5 years to do this, because who knows if that train is already left at that point. So I think that now, if any time, is the time to invest in those facilities.
It is one of our biggest teams. 70 students participate on that as compared to some of the other teams that we have
Are
where
there any bigger? It's bigger in football.
it's not as big as track, but that's the
Track.
only one that's not bigger than.
I think that's also where it comes
We
in,
spent
like
millions of dollars on the facility.
the difference between the baseball fields and the swimming pool is, one, I mean, it's more community centered, the pool itself, like you have all sorts of people coming to it rather than I guess, just the baseball team. And then you have that much more drive from the kids to want to do swimming. And you're not, I guess, they're not asking as much as the baseball fields were. And
70 kids on the swimming team?
yeah,
It's becoming.
That's why there's no spectators, because it's all
No
kids.
seating.
Man,
You bring three teams down, it's like, okay, wall to wall, body,
yeah.
and wear masks.
And social distancing.
Yeah, social distance.
Would you,
I'm in the pool right now. It is troublesome to me that they haven't, that they're just assuming to come in, and I think that needs to be.
but are you in and taking away the lunchroom expenses?
Probably not. I'm
But just
in
in going
using
into-
savings
okay.
to do the pool.
I'm in using savings, but I do not want to take away from the expansion.
I think we
Yeah.
have to choose between one or the other,
Well,
or
and
lower the amount.
I'm in with the pool, but I don't know that I'm in at 600,000.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think if we're doing 600,000, we need to.
I mean, I'm
wait
okay
on
even
more.
taking out of the savings to accomplish it, but not at 600,000.
I think that's too much.
And that's why I asked, and I said, are you willing to take whatever we give you? Because
Well, I'm sure
Well,
we will.
where's the breaking point that the project gets done or not done?
Well, that's why I say I think if we do 600,000, we need to wait on Mount Harmon.
Well, I'm all in for Mount Harmon too.
So,
I
I'm
just
sorry,
wish we had
just
more money.
refresh my- you said that we're just sitting at that 500,000 right now. Were the estimates that it would be less than that, or that's where they think it's gonna be?
Initially, the last month, this was at 800,000, and that was taken from a square, cost per square foot that's commonly being used right now. We just felt like that's
Where we
way
already
high
have
for
3
what
walls.
we have
Yeah,
in
that's-
mind.
Yeah.
And so we had them come over and look at it, and they said, yeah, talk through a couple of different scenarios that can happen, and said, I think you'd be safe to budget around $500,000, but there hasn't been any design work or anything done to say exactly what that would look like, how it would, if this is just contractors getting together and saying, yeah, how you tie the roof structure, and I think it'd be about $500,000.
And and they're talking about it's closed in.
Closed
completely.
in, heated, they're thinking heated,
Uh-huh.
not just enclosed, but making it a nicer space.
Yeah, you can't talk to an architect without them saying, we got to put some swirls in here.
And that's another reason we're pretty confident about the 500,000, because the way they think, we've gotten to know them pretty well, and they think big. And so I think 500,000 is going to do it.
So can you go back to your figures again, Darren? If you went right at 28,
Or did you talk about this spreadsheet?
yeah, if you're saying what it would be, but is that 28 was how much with the line at 28?
Oh, to the other sheet.
Oh, this.
So the one that showed what?
Yeah.
line
So if you
28.
went from 1.6, then what does it?
So we're at 2 points.
So, okay,
Two.
you're talking about if we were to, say, and I just threw in a number 1.7 here, but
So you'd save a 300,000 on the
yeah.
little bit.
about
So you'd have-
2,000
Okay.
If we were to go. ahead.
But that's not, that included the pool?
It does not.
No.
That has nothing
See,
to
I
do with the pool.
just,
So if you did, just to throw it out there, if you did 300,000 for the pool on top, then that means we
No
save
savings.
0, and our fund balance just stays the same.
Right.
Which is 2 million, right?
Yeah.
Right now.
Well,
It'll be
plus the
About
160,000.
2.7 million.
2.7. Okay.
I would like to see them approach the county.
Well, if you do less than 600,000, then they're gonna have to get to work
Either,
for the other 300,000,
right,
or the other 200,000, or the other, whatever, you know.
Whatever
This
the,
might not be my place, but can I ask a question?
sure, it's open, we're a public meeting. Just raise your hand, we'll recognize
Can
you.
it be though that you say this is how much we'd like to do, we'd like you to go seek other, and then
Come back.
if the project's not gonna happen, I mean, I don't know, do you have another option than choosing the entire amount?
That's exactly what we were just saying, so,
Why not?
yeah,
We
I think
do.
we definitely have that.
And I think what happens is the board, we'll have a board member who makes a motion, someone will second it, we'll pick on a number. We'll probably have a little debate. Somebody might make a second that'll die for lack of, someone make a motion that'll die for lack of second. But then,
He's got the script down for us.
We've been here
Hey,
before.
yeah, we've been here before, that's right. And we can make that conditional upon them starting the project by a certain date, or searching for funding from other entities, or whatever else.
I just didn't, I
Yeah,
didn't know. what you-
all that stuff is conditional. It can all be made. Depending on how they want to do it.
I'll shut up now. Sorry.
So let's say that we give them 300,000 and then they aren't able to secure the rest of the funding, then what happens with our money then?
Come back and show us what the effort they've made.
It-
Grants they've
it would
applied for.
Yeah, but I think it's gotta be
Possibly goes
contingent
to
on
a
building.
request in the next year, so if they said, well, we'll need to save a little bit more ZAP tax for that, then at that point, we wouldn't spend anything this year, and they'd come back and ask again the next year.
Makes sense.
And maybe they come back and say, look, we've tried this and this and this, and so okay, we'll go 400.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. Come on in, welcome. We're just finishing up the work meeting. So we don't have anything for a closed meeting session, I'm informed, unless the board members have something. Nothing from the board then? Okay. Is there anything else we need to discuss? If not, I would recommend we take 5 minutes, stretch our legs, whatever, get a snack, bring Hunter out a piece of chocolate so we can stay awake.
Sounds good.
Okay? And we'll, 5 o'clock. Okay, we'll be back at 5 o'clock.
Old, he's worried about all the wind in here. He's got that set up next to Darren, he's worried about all the wind in here with that.
So good.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Oh, yeah, obviously. What else would I
Had a way good Argentina in Brazil, so. Happy.
I'm excited. The Spanish.
Yeah, I was.
But it's also my teacher, so I want to eat dinner.
Where, when do you go?
June 15th.
So soon. 98 days.
And how many hours?
I wasn't counting the website, the church website. Counts for you. I was thinking I had a little bit longer.
There's.
Well, no, I mean, you're home, but we got an email today.
How do they?
I don't give you these.
So if they don't meet the 60, will they say, okay,
6 to 9 weeks.
let's get the marquee done, so it's there, and we're still saying, oh. Or will they say, no, we
We
want
got
to
a
say.
empty basement, you can hang out there, and if we catch you at the desk,
I
you
can,
only spend this, but that doesn't mean you're not good.
I can't help you with
I
Spanish.
understand that, but they're not usually that.
Yeah, no,
I mean, I
Yeah.
just,
I can't tell you either.
Um,
Google Translate.
it would be a question to Jack.
I asked Jared yesterday, because I had hoped to be able to discuss the budget. He said, no, we're not gonna know until we really.
And who else? There was
That's something that, when you get in the movie, I can ask.
Then President Conde got his.
I think it's after that's been decided, is when we ask the question.
Yeah, that.
If the 60,000 is off, can we now just approve that?
Oh, Jack Mark.
Yeah, yeah. The pieces come in. At that point, you know.
Yeah, I don't think it's, I was just thinking to the future.
That's part of it. So what do you think about doing this now? It looks like you're able to do it. I think they don't.
Oh, shit. I am going to San Diego, Chile. Say that, San Diego?
Oh, I know that.
A lot of people picked up that I guess the Santiago instead of Chile because it is what it is. So I think it's I was hoping Chile was So language is 10 weeks before I start agency. Yeah, so like I'll do a class, they'll just come in, it'll,
You know, the first one.
that's why I'm trying to learn Spanish by myself, so I can get there and they can join the.
Yeah. Wait, so you were saying
Now they're all split.
Yeah, so I do a whole bit of PC, so there's a bunch of grades in there. By myself. Like, they're using someone, I can be someone with someone. I don't know why that could be that, yeah, it might be also. Yeah, because in reality, we won't be alone for 2 years.
Yeah. What did you?
I wanted for like the it was worthy that I wasn't really getting anything because that's what it said. And I was like, well, I think what is the rest of very I mean, it's just Colombia.
Thanks, lots of stuff.
Yeah, you guys were all just.
I can see them. You're right on
Let's
this.
just set it myself. You don't know. Well, let's get it. That's what you do.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Honestly, when I first heard that, I was like, screw Spanish. We got one. Get my ration.
Darren, we live?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to our meeting. It is March 10th. It is 5 o'clock, Carbon School District Board meeting. We love having visitors, especially when there are people that we are really fond of and we like to recognize. So thank you for coming. Recognizing all board members are present, superintendent, business office administrator. And we're going to ask Hunter if he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all rise on this, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this point, we have a public comment period, but I have nothing from the public. Is there anyone here who is not, for a reason on the agenda, that needs to make a public comment? If not, we will move directly into recognition. Superintendent, we'll turn that to you.
Okay, thank you. We have a great opportunity today to recognize, I haven't really confirmed this, but yes.
We're waiting for Coach Allie.
Oh, she's still not, okay.
Here yet.
I didn't look to see. Okay, we'll skip down. We'll go down to, we'll start at the bottom and go up.
Nothing perfect.
Is that okay, Mr. Palmer?
That's fine. I don't know if they're here, but I don't think we should delay it another month and.
Okay.
Let's just present it and-
Well, we do want to recognize, and Mr. Palmer, could you come up real quick and just
That's
tell us,
very nice music.
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about this project? And-
we don't need any more to put us to sleep.
So this, when I became the principal of the school, there had been a long-running tradition there. But the reward that went with this was things made by the old principal's wife, and my wife wasn't willing to make all of these stuffed stars. Anyway, so it ended this program, which is what the wall was painted to go along with. And so I went to the librarian, and she said there used to be this wonderful mural up there that was painted over. And so we just began to kind of explore some ideas of how to get a mural back up there. And so we teamed up with Sterling Scholars. I went to Mr. Sweeney and said, look, we would like to do something that would represent knowledge of all sorts, and it kind of developed from there. So I'll let you watch it and then I'll answer any. I look really tired there, by the way.
Things have changed. We had this, it was just a wall that was related to something that used to do in the past. So it needed to be changed anyway. And so they started the library and she said, you used to have this nice mural. So a lot of people to me that Sterling Scholars is always looking for projects. I reached out to Mr. Sweeney and to see if there was something they would be interested in doing. And so we met all of the Sterling Scholars here and kind of talked about the vision for having an area that represented all of the different areas, different ways that we gain knowledge. And so she went to work and was able to develop on a program this design. Started to work it actually into practice.
To do this was this is based off of all of the Sterling Scholars different sections and categories.
Yes, you should be describing that.
Can you fix it? We, the narration now then.
I actually don't know. I asked her to come back and to finish the project. But I could show where she explains what every area is represented, so.
In the video, she does describe that each content area is depicted, so I use the art.
You know, that's foreign language.
There you go.
So it's kind of an idea, we started with the dream of putting a mural back, and then she took it and ran with it. And she's worked tremendously hard. She'd bring it to me, we'd make a few suggestions, and she'd fix it. And finally it came and started putting it on the wall.
So weird.
Since we can't hear her, where those kids get on to paint this, it's a ledge and it's
The next
about
step
20 inches
like
wide.
her to. It's funny, we couldn't get a proof of them
Something
being
that
so
explains
explains
the
the
institution, what it represents, and that's the next project we work on with her.
Friends that were helping her finish her project, and they spent, I don't even know how many hours they spent there, but they just wanted to help their friend finish. So it started off as all of them, but the visual arts, Sterling Scholar kind of took off and ran did most of it, and as they got busy with their different projects, she ended up taking a lot bigger load than she anticipated. I wish she was here so that you could talk to her, because I think it ended up being way more than she expected. I think when they took it on, it was gonna be however many of them working together, and as time changed, it ended up being probably 95% Amelia, and the other kids would help when they could, but they were just busy. But she was committed to finishing it instead of just kind of leaving it, and we appreciate that. I mean, now it's there in the library and is much more attractive than a dark blue wall, and that was kind of fun to team up. I think it's just, that's what it's about. It's about finding, I mean, it was interesting when they came to the school, I think most of them had been my students, so that was kind of fun too, that I didn't really anticipate, but here they were in the library talking to me, and they have been my students, and they had been students at Creekview, many of them, and it kind of came full circle in a lot of ways, and we were able to finish the project, and it was a lot of fun. So I hope they at least know we recognize them. We've tried 2 months now, but and that she does well in Sterling Scholars from what she did on this project. So any other questions about that?
Part of that narration, which she was describing the hours, and I put it together, she told me it was over 200 hours. Time put it on that bureau.
And I wouldn't be surprised by that.
Well, since she,
So bad, like I have really nothing to do with it other than it was a weird idea I had, but
since she couldn't make it, would it be all right if we sent a card on behalf of the board?
Yes,
Expressing
please.
some appreciation. Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Moving up from the bottom then, we have an opportunity to congratulate our Carbon High athletes for our winter sports. And the following students, as we call their name, if they're here, will they please come forward? And we're recognizing them today for their academic all-state honors. This means that they achieved in their sports, but also perhaps maybe even more importantly, achieved at high levels in their classroom work. So we'd like to recognize Kayla Wilson from drill. If you're here, please come on up. Excellent, thank you. Kaylee Sharp from drill. Haley Powell from girls swimming. Jenna Birch from girls swimming. Elizabeth Pugliese from girls swimming. Kayla Lee from girls swimming. I don't know if there's an indication here of why the girls swimming did so well this season. Easton Horsley from wrestling. PJ Howa from the wrestling team, and Merrick Morgan from the boys basketball team. Have a little token of appreciation there that Mrs. Salas is handing out. That's the movie passes. And if you wouldn't mind turning around after the pictures are done and face the board, I wondered if the board had any questions or anything that you'd like to ask or say?
I think it's awesome. You guys are great. I've been able to watch all of you participate in those different sports, and I think that's awesome. Congratulations on
Right.
good work.
I think we all recognize that there are a lot of students who excel academically. There are a lot of students who excel athletically, but there are a very small group who can excel academically and athletically and make it all come together. So we appreciate all your hard work and what you do. Very good.
Nice job.
We're impressed.
It's wow, it's the best word. Good job, good job.
Thank you for
I see Bruce,
representing.
Bruce, do they draw a
school and
line
district.
across the state, or is it by
By sport.
sport where they draw the line of?
Now it used to be each classification was different. Now they're all lumped in together, and there's that line. It's consistent, but then the achievement, like if they have a 3 points, are you talking about GPA?
Yeah.
3.75 makes you eligible, but then from there, it fluctuates on kind of who rises to the top, so to speak.
Has it ever been below 3.95?
Oh, no.
I didn't think so. Okay. Well, congratulations. Wow.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Okay, just maybe one final word. Having participated in athletics myself and having children who do, it's hard to balance all that. You are missing class to participate, and it's hard to juggle all of those responsibilities. So just outstanding work by these students. All right, well, as we continue to move up, we have, we'll save the best for last. But right now, we want to recognize the boys and girls swimming team. They are academic state champions, 2 separate championships. The boys state championship for academics, meaning that out of all the 3A, it was 3A, right? Okay. It wasn't everybody, but okay. So it was out of 3A, the boys swimming team had the highest academic achievement of anyone else in the state. The same is true for the girls. Out of the girls team, they've achieved academically higher than any other team in the state. That's a huge accomplishment for both of those teams. And if we could have all the boys and girls swimmers, please come on up. We'll fill up the front of this room with you. We have a small token of appreciation that Mrs. Salas will hand out to everybody.
They're going to want your picture, so make sure you can see the cameras. That's okay.
Do we have, is Coach Chamberlain?
We won't kick you out.
Would you mind saying something about the academic achievement here?
It takes a lot for these kids, and I give them all the credit. They work hard in the classroom, they work hard in the pool. Swim gets not the credit it deserves. It's literally one of the hardest sports there is. These kids swim between 5,000 to 6,000 yards every single day. And they don't complain about it. They get in, they get it done. They set their goals and they set them high and they achieve them. I'm just there as kind of, a guide. But it's these kids that accomplish this goal. And I'm proud of every single one of them.
Okay, thank you. Let's give them a big round of applause. And now the girls need to stay up here. Thank you, boys. Appreciate you being here, and And I am not aware, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, of any other three-peat in the history of Carbon School District. I think this is it. Carbon High School girls swim team, three-peat state champions. Need I say more? That's just so awesome. Let's give them a big round of applause. Coach, would you mind, explaining to the board anything about, this process, this journey that these girls have been through? And
Every year we gain new. When I moved here, it was a goal of mine to start young, start a competitive team that could go all over the state. And I think that's helped build our program, and obviously success helps build it as well. But, I mean, we lost some key players last year, but we had these freshmen come in, a few sophomores step up. They did amazing. I can't even ask for anything more. And as much as winning the title means, to have the academic portion of that as well, it's huge. And I love every single one of these kids. They do more for me than I probably do for them. So hopefully we'll just continue to go. This isn't the end of us. We want to be a dynasty here, so.
Dynasty,
credit.
dynasty is the word I keep hearing.
So, yeah,
And,
what
that's what it
more
is.
than a three-peat do you need
Yeah.
to have that word? Four,
I don't ever
yeah.
go in, and they're like, are you gonna win again? I'm like, I don't ever go in planning to lose, so.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of these guys do either.
Girls, if you wouldn't mind, could you turn and face the board real quick and see if the board has any questions or comments?
I have to give the boys some credit. When I started 6 years ago, because I assisted for 3 years, we started at 17th place. We kind of moved up. Last year, we were, I believe, 11th, and this year, they're 5th.
Wow.
Those boys work just as hard as these girls do. We might not have the numbers, but it's coming. We're getting there.
Yeah. That's how you build the program.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, thank you very much. Before we're all done with recognitions, though, I think we've kind of passed over one, Superintendent.
Did we?
We have a Coach of the Year.
Oh, we did?
So Allie is Coach of the Year for swimming now. So congratulations and thank you very much for what you do with these kids.
That's not region, that's state.
At stake. It's,
Yeah.
the 3 years I've had coached, I've actually gotten that award, which means a ton because it comes from my peers that
Yes.
I coach with. So that's kind of amazing. But I'm always like, it's not me, it's these kids that work so hard, so.
They make you look good. That's
Well,
perfect.
I love to put kids on the spot. Anybody want to say anything about your coach? Any brave soul?
I love you.
She knows how to push us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
I have to make it fun because let's be honest, staring at a black line for 5,000 yards is not fun. But somehow we have fun, so.
Thank you, Coach. We appreciate you and all of you girls. Great job. Another big round of applause. Thank you. Actually, if you just stay right there, the rest of the meeting would be more pleasant for me. So, no, I'm just kidding. You.
So we recognize that you're not here to see the board, but you're welcome to stay. Listen to the business. If you need to go, that's all right. We're okay with that. It hurts, but we're okay.
We're going to talk about school fees.
Keep going, keep going.
That doesn't draw me.
Yeah.
Then I don't know.
When are we gonna talk about the pool again?
Yeah, you should tell, whoa, we're gonna do the pool, come back. I need you guys.
Are you suddenly lonely?
Jeff.
Everybody.
No, I wouldn't have put him on the
So
spot.
they go to him. That's their job.
It's like, boom, you know, I hit the field goal. Plus Tyler.
Right, exactly.
How many yards did you swim in the morning?
Well, when I was swimming actively, I do 3 miles, which is, I don't know, 17 times 3, 5,100. Yeah, something like that.
I couldn't keep up with it.
And I do 20 laps.
Do you? Hey, that's better than me. I need to go back.
All right,
That's 40.
on to board member reports. We're gonna start at this end today. Mr. Woodward, we'll let you begin, board member report.
Hey, I'm good. Don't want to let you off the hook for the master boards program. Keep up. You're getting left behind here, so keep up.
Okay. Lee?
I have nothing tonight.
All right, Keith. Melissa?
I did go take the opportunity and go tour the addition at the high school. I didn't go over to help her, but I would suggest that you take the opportunity to do that. I know that you guys went when you did your walkthrough, but it seems to be changing very, very quickly, and it is so awesome to see that. So I would say if you have an opportunity to go. And then I was able to attend the first boys basketball game at state. And that was really fun too. It was really fun. The kids were great. The crowd was great. It was unexpectedly exciting for quite a while until the very end. So it was a good time.
Especially considering we weren't sure we were even going to have a season
Right.
going in, so.
Right. Yep,
Pretty-
it was really good. I enjoyed that.
Okay, thank you. Hunter, what would you like to add?
I don't really have anything else.
You're good. Let's see. Competition is next week?
Yeah, the 22nd. My interview's at 10:30.
And this is all virtual?
Yeah, which is gonna be weird, but yeah, it is what it
You're
is.
still practicing one-on-one though, or are they
Yeah,
practice virtual yet?
No, they haven't had us do any virtual practices, and I don't think we will. I think they're all just gonna be in person up until the competition, but.
Okay.
We just have to play with the hand. you're
You've
dealt, right?
well, you've had some virtual practice all year, I think, or last year, but
Yeah,
I think it would be nice if they could.
it was kind of funny, at IE the other day, I had a meeting with, the HR manager and the R&D guy back east, and they were both talking, they were asking me about what I was doing. I was like, oh yeah, I have Sterling Scholar coming up. They were like, oh yeah, we both were too. I remember his stuff. And I just thought that was kind of funny. No, it was Jake Aramosky and,
Oh, yeah.
Alec
Jake.
Makowitz.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of funny. It was just this conference between the three of us, and then it ended up just talking, them telling their stories about Sterling Scholar
That's
too.
awesome.
But
Okay. So I've been asked by members of the public who kind of watch this stuff fairly closely, the COVID numbers, and we are considered a small high school, but our numbers are over 15 and we're not pivoting. And they say, why is that not happening? I don't know, but I can ask because I know the guy who'll know the answer.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and the answer is maybe just a little bit complicated, but the health order and the COVID manual for K-12 education has changed throughout the year. We've had, I don't know how many updates, but the most recent one says that if you have more than 1% of your student population test positive, then you need to transition into a test to stay model where students would have to test negative to come to school. The little caveat to that is that they don't include athletic testing because that's already taking place proactively. And when a student is positive, they're removed from the student population. So they're no longer a concern for the school. So
where most of our cases were related to athletics and they are now out of the mix.
Exactly.
Their numbers are counted, but they're not counted against us. Is that what I'm
That's
hearing?
right.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the logic that they've explained to me. And so we just follow the guidelines that they've given. And because of that, we have not really, even though it looks like we are over that 1%, we haven't really come close if you take the athletes out.
But no, 1% for us is about 11 kids, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's pretty tight. I mean, all right.
But
1%
it's
is
interesting
pretty
though, that if we did test to stay, which means that we would have to test all of the kids, we can just keep holding school at normal if we have 2.5% of those test positive. So it's 1% to trigger the test to stay, and then
It's 2.5.
it's 2.5% because now you're testing everybody. So it's kind of weird how they do it, but
So really it's somewhere between the 1 and the 2.5%.
exactly, yeah.
You have to stay.
Mhm.
Okay.
What are the rules on COVID for prom? What have they settled on?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So masks are still required for prom. And the other change that recently came about is the requirement to COVID test every participant 48 hours prior to the social prom. Yeah, I will get just a tiny bit political here. If the county were to do a concert or an event, they wouldn't have to do that. It's only K-12 who has to test all of the participants 48 hours. So it's going to be quite an endeavor. We're making plans. We're trying to figure out how to get that many tests and how to organize it. It's going to be a huge effort on a lot of people's part to make sure that happens. We're going to have a testing station outside for anyone who didn't get the test 48 hours ahead. Will have to test right there and wait. And if they test positive, we'll say, see you later. I hope you enjoy your dress.
Yeah.
That's going to be rough. So I don't know. It's the pandemic, I guess. So
In the event though that a student, and I don't know how they're doing it this year, if they have tickets to go and then they test positive because it's beyond their control, can they get a refund on their tickets?
Oh, I think we will insist that they get.
Yeah,
a refund,
okay, good,
absolutely.
good. Yeah, because this isn't necessarily their fault that they're
Right.
And I
having to be quarantined.
saw that they're doing it like a senior and junior prom because the kids last
Last
year
year
didn't
didn't
get their junior prom.
Yeah.
Right.
So that'll be cool.
We are anticipating record numbers actually.
I would assume
because
so.
I think the kids are they're so excited. I heard that when the announcement was made at the high school, teachers couldn't even teach for like 15, 20 minutes because it was just just chatter of all the excitement of the students.
So are they gonna do like are they still gonna do the promenade? And
Yes.
then but they're gonna do a senior and junior
Yeah,
promenade?
and they're at separate times.
There's a time that says
Oh, is
senior
it?
prom and
Okay.
then junior prom.
I did find out that the parents who go to that, they're not counting as participants, so they won't have to test 24 hours ahead or 48 hours ahead. Just the students, but they will have to wear a face
Mask,
covering
yeah, right.
and all the other.
And then one more COVID-y type question, mask question. I assume that if the state does release their mask mandate in April, as Governor Potts is hoping to, they will still be required for school throughout the rest of the year. Is that the assumption or?
Right now, that's the assumption, but the language in the health order says may. So all of the language dealing with the school says may because that bill, sorry, it was the House bill. And anyway, it says that they want, actually, the drafters of the bill wanted that to be between the governor and the health department making the decisions for K-12. So there's a chance that when that happens, masks are not a part of K-12, but there's also a really good chance that they will remain. It's the one area that can be controlled easily. And I'm concerned though, because once that genie's out of the bottle
Yeah,
out there,
you can't put them back.
it's gonna be really tough for us to require masks from everybody if the rest of the public isn't.
And I really think the people I've talked to anticipate that they're gonna be wearing masks in school for the rest of the year, regardless of what happens in the community. And
I think there's a good chance of that too. There's some schools that I know of, not in our district, that haven't been able to successfully enforce masks this whole time anyway. So for April 10th to come around, I don't know, I think it's going to be one of the biggest challenges. If it's not lifted, we're going to have to really think hard about how we handle that.
But isn't there some language in that same bill though that says there's some milestones we have to meet? You have to have 1.6 million in the state that are vaccinated, at least on the first round, which that's a long way to go. I mean, we've only got 30 days and you got 500,000 vaccinations that have to happen.
I thought they rescinded that number.
I thought they kept it to 1.6. They bounced it around, but
From what I read, that was separate from the April 10th. April 10th, so you still have to wear masks if you have groups of 50 or more. And I can't remember what the other stipulation was. In schools, yeah. But if those other criteria are met, it's no mask period, no matter what. So that's the way I understood it.
Okay, yeah, and it was a question, it wasn't.
How are we doing with teachers and everyone being vaccinated? Are we getting close to we have quite a few done? I mean, what's the percentage of
Everybody
staff?
who wanted it is done, except for a handful of people who wanted it, but they tested positive, so they couldn't have it at the time we were offering, so they had to wait, their 30 days or whatever. So just those are left, and they're working with the health department to get that taken care of. But we have almost, besides those few, everybody else is done.
Okay. All right, then Superintendent, we'll move to your report.
And this one isn't, too heavy or anything. I just wanted to provide for the board a tracking sheet for the legislation that's happened during this session. We've been working pretty hard through the session on education bills. You can see that there's a ton of education bills and a lot were passed. Each one of these bills requires us to, almost all of them require us to adjust what we do. We're going to have to go through them. We're going to have to learn, over the next several months what they mean and how to apply them. There were some that did not pass. For example, the school district voter eligibility. There's school emergency drills amendments didn't pass. So there's anything that's blank over here did not pass. So I just wanted to provide that resource to you. And if there was any certain bill that anyone has a question about, I'm happy to try my best to answer. This is a great document that I provided also for the board. This is the JLC positions. What I like about this one is it shares the bill number, the title of the bill, also a bill summary, and then it shows whether the school boards and superintendents support that or not. This was March 1st. This was as of March 1st. So status right here, you would have to compare to the other list to see if it actually passed or not. But this is a great resource. There were some very controversial bills, like the one dealing with students being able to participate in athletics. I can't remember the number of that one, but the transgender participation in athletics, that was a very big, controversial, lots of conversation about that one. But that one did not pass, which I'm glad for, because UHSAA actually has a really good policy on how to handle that, and I think it has worked well. Anyway, this one, for example, is a firearm safety in schools, which would provide a pilot program that it's kind of an introduction to a requirement for schools to take that on. And so many schools and districts were concerned about the liability and everything associated with that. Anyway, if there are any questions, I'm happy to do my best to answer them, but I just mostly wanted to provide you the resources.
Do you know, like, details? If you go to Senate Bill 189, and it said that the JLC had a position of oppose on there, and I didn't understand the reasonings.
Okay. Tobacco retailer amendments. Let me pull up another little document that I have.
Yeah, I can see the note on the bottom that says that it doesn't help schools, and yet it does seem that it pushes them further away from schools.
The stores.
The tobacco retailer, which this is interesting. A tobacco retailer does not mean a convenience store that sells tobacco products. It's got to be a vape shop or a smoke shop, or but their primary, but something like 65% of their product is tobacco related. And if it's
that's all I have on the other document too, is just, and that's one that I wasn't part of the conversation, so I'm going to struggle speaking to that one.
Okay. All right. I just wondered why the
Circle
position.
back around. Sorry,
What's that?
you can circle back around on that one. I'm being
It's all right. I can pull the bill. I know how to pull them up. So, okay. Anything else, Superintendent, for your report?
Nope.
Okay. All right, next on our agenda is the discussion about school fees. This is here specifically tonight so that we can invite public input regarding school fees. Don't have much in the way of public.
Got the
Amy, any questions about school
ultimate
fees?
public over there. Any
That's
input?
I can't talk.
She reports the news. She doesn't make the news.
Well, you can if you, no, I'm kidding. Okay, well then, for our purposes, because I think we're planning to approve tonight. We have to do this by April 1.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to go through this, and here's where they're listed. Here's what happens with the board. We need to nitpick, pull apart, question. I think Bruce is the man of the hour on this one as well.
Contain your excitement, Bruce.
That's right.
It's not a change since the last time we went over it.
It's the same as the last time you saw it and we went through it. So
Right.
We can look at any aspect of it that you'd like, and we'll do our best to answer the questions. Almost everything stayed the same, but there, after the coaches experienced a season, or the advisors experienced, one school year, they realized that they struggled in some areas. So the changes are because of experience and not so much wish lists, although maybe we could find a few of those in there, I don't know, but.
Did they make some changes to, make the hotel rooms? Remember we looked at that and the hotel rooms were different on different.
Yeah, we decided that we had better use the discretion of the coach because of where they're going. They have some experience about where they're going and what that's gonna
Yeah,
cost.
different costs in Nephi than there are in St. George or
Right.
Salt Lake.
The only thing I would mention on it is, some of them have changed more than $100, some of them went quite a bit. And I just hope that we don't start creeping up again, that we keep that in mind, that we need to keep those costs down. And if they're looking at more than $100, do they really need more than that? I just
Yeah.
think we need to keep it in mind to keep that down.
I think they've had their chance to learn.
Yeah, after this year, they pretty much know what's.
Yeah, and
what it is.
I just would hate to see next year say, well, we need another couple hundred here or there, but we stay.
Well, along those lines, I have a specific question, and that if you go on your bottom tab on the boys basketball, I see now they include the shoes because they want to have a specific shoe. Rather than just say a blue shoe or a white shoe, they want a specific brand. And I'm not sure that that's a necessity to play on the high school basketball team.
That's right, and many of the teams have gone away from that. But this team did go away from it last year and
Yeah.
didn't like it. They wanted to come back. So, that's definitely something that the board can say, we don't really support that.
And that's the ones I have a hard time with. If we're, when we looked at the band and they were doing color guard and it was a whole different, but to just start putting numbers, let's just move it up a little, that concerns me if we do that.
It's $191.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, I could even see that even $100 might be some difference in it, but we're pushing these, and I don't know, I think it's a little much.
Now, the gear bag, $50 one time, so if they play all 4 years, they're only gonna need one gear bag.
That's right.
Is that what you're saying?
And many of the fees in athletics are that way. Baseball has a lot of those.
Sure, yeah. You buy your bat bag or your whatever, it works, but,
But the shoes are the big ticket item there.
and shoes are gonna change year to year. You're not
Yeah.
gonna wear a pair of shoes for
That's
2
right.
seasons. I just think it's
It's a
an
lot of money.
unnecessary requirement.
We can compromise and say that that's.
Yeah, I agree, I
Yeah,
think we're,
So can we
get down and vote on that.
can we just put a little strike through on that one little part, just so that we can remember that's there? Or maybe just highlight it, maybe that's what we do. Well, I don't know how to highlight now, so. There we go.
Can't highlight, but he can strike through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just.
Well, and I can
we're
change the
pushing.
color, that
Well, you got, you, three votes made known on that, so you can.
Yeah, I think,
there we go. Stand.
I don't know, was there anything else that really climbed like crazy?
That, the only other one, I think the color guard was one, and what else, there was,
Color
but most
guard
of them
was
stayed
new,
with,
wasn't
yeah,
it?
that
Color guard was
was
new,
new. But most of them stayed under,
and it's 2 seasons.
was around the $100, but there was,
Here's the color. Next one right there. But this is new.
yes,
basically
that was,
new.
Well, and that was the new thing on it, because it's 2 seasons now, correct?
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
That's more than.
Fees have increased
Yeah.
because Color Guard now competes in 2 different seasons, fall and winter.
And I have to tell you, I was very pleasantly surprised to see them at one of the ball games here at the high school this year, because I had no idea what it was gonna be. And it was actually very, very good. And then they went and
Chris.
competed and did very well in competition.
Chris Sweeney's been good at sharing videos of
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, it was.
It's
was
fun.
good.
It's
Was there
fun to
any
watch.
others that
Yeah.
went? I don't think there was.
Yeah, cheer stayed underneath where they were at. They weren't gonna increase anything. I think everybody else went up a few
Minimal.
dollars.
Yeah, it was pretty minimal.
Except for boys basketball was a significant increase. And if we say, shoes are
Yeah.
off the table.
And that helps that a lot.
Mhm.
They still have some increases they're making because they're having some of those other things.
Bruce, why is AP test
But
on
it's under
here?
$100 that way.
Yeah, and I think if we stay within that.
Oh, on
It's
the,
on the school fee part.
on the fee schedule?
Okay.
Up here.
It should,
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay, it's not a. Not always
and
gonna
to
be.
address boys basketball, they didn't go to a summer clinic this last summer. They're anticipating going to one this next summer. So that was another slight increase.
But the shoes was a big.
Yeah.
That should be universal though, because nobody did last year. Or did they?
Well, that wasn't even in their plan to do it.
But the other ones had it in their plan.
Correct.
Didn't.
Any other questions or comments about any of the
Harmon or Helper?
spending plans for the middle schools?
I didn't see anything really.
And they were unchanged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have.
No red there, except that was one of the two.
I was gonna say, I think
Was
somebody
there
added
something
one,
that-
archery.
Archery
Yeah.
had a participation.
Mr.
Yep.
Yeah.
Helper.
So he said it needed to be changed.
Doesn't show it there though.
Oh, it's just not red. I think we didn't
But that, yeah.
make it red.
So it's the top.
First one.
Oh, there it is. So there, yeah, we should have made that one red, sorry.
It's red on the tab, just not on
Okay.
All righty.
Any further discussions? Any questions? Any other comments? No, then, anything from the public? We keep calling for public comment. All right, well then we have vetted this to the public. So we will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the school fees for the 19, what year are we doing? The 2020? Can we move backwards? 21, 22,
22.
taking off that 125 on the basketball for the shoes, minus that out.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Lee, we have a second by Wayne to approve the fees less the basketball shoes. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you. All right. School land trust information. I actually requested this be put on here. Did everybody get this email from?
I
did.
really like the format that they explain it. I
Yeah.
thought, wow.
It
this
was
is
really
great.
easy to review. But I'll tell you, one thing it triggered in me is this board, the school board, has the obligation to ensure that the community councils are trained on these guidelines.
Not the board.
Okay.
Don't be putting us in your pocket, buddy. I know that one.
Is required to make sure these happen. And so what I did was I started looking at all the schools and their plans, or not their plans, all the schools and their agendas and the minutes and things like that.
Yeah.
And whoops. Whoa, man, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Not in all of them. Some of them do pretty well. But in others, they have the schedule, but there's no meetings held, even on the dates passed. And maybe they held a meeting, but there's no minutes. And we're now into March, so we should be into at least 3 of our 4 required meetings. And we just, again, a couple of schools have 2 or 3, great, but some of the schools have Zippo.
And the master boards says we should go to some of those meetings as board members.
And that's part of the problem is they're scheduled but not being held necessarily. And superintendent, we've kind of beat this drum a little bit. It's hard to find on a specific school's website. That they're gonna hold a meeting, or that there's elections being held,
Yeah,
or,
there's not universal.
you click on the link and it goes to where you have to sign in. But if you don't have an account, how do you sign in? And so there's lots of problems still with our community council's communications. So,
The other document we put up there. Well,
the appropriate
right.
expenditures.
Well, it's interesting here that we need to make sure as we review these plans that what goal they're putting out there and they're requesting approval to use the funds for lines up with their top priorities in their school improvement plans, their success plans that's there. So if we don't look and have that school's improvement plan,
Right there.
then we won't know if it's lining up with what they think is the most important.
But this is what I complain to the state all the time and to the Trust Lands people. Their timeline does not allow us to do that. We are ahead of our school improvement plans. We haven't done our assessments. We don't even know what our needs are.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating that school community councils have to determine their goals right now when we don't have the data. It would be so much better if the board was approving this in June. Now we're talking. We'll have the data, we can align everything up perfectly. It's a challenge.
We have to use beginning of your data rather than end of your data to make it, yeah.
It's almost
Need the time.
just a guess.
Yeah, or mid-year data. But I think from our perspective, dealing with what we're dealing with, that as a board, we need to be accommodating when we get these mid-course asks to adjust their plans. Because now they've got data and now they're seeing where their needs are, where they didn't hit the mark before because they didn't have the data.
Sure, and we've seen that. We've seen principals come and say, hey,
Right.
we've noticed now that we have data that we don't need to focus on this area, we need to focus over here. And I think we've been pretty accommodating.
We have
for
been,
those
but we
things.
need to recognize that that's
That's an
that's
issue.
not them just being wishy-washy out there. That's
Right.
accommodating, that's doing the process that really needs to be done.
So I don't know what we want to do at this point going forward, other than to say, read over this, get really familiar with it.
Next month, you'll be seeing those plans. So it's been really frustrating, I'll tell you, this year. COVID's been difficult.
Yeah.
But also, the Trust Lands website has been completely down for months. We have not been able to look at our old plans. We haven't been able to submit anything. All the normal requirements that are normally required in early March, they've changed the requirement because their website's completely down and it's not going to be up again for another couple weeks. Our poor schools are way behind in the work that they would normally be doing in Trust Lands to report everything. Even a report on the finances from last year, we still have not been able to do. So it's been really, really frustrating. But I hope that means that their website's going to be much better. I think they're doing a whole revamp of that, so it'll be a little easier, but it's been a challenge. But we will be ready to present to the board next month.
Well, the only thing I think the board can offer really is, one, patience, obviously, but if we need to back the meeting off a week, I think we could accommodate that. Go to a third Wednesday from a second Wednesday.
See, and we think we're going to be ready regardless of the website, because right now we've worked with principals a few weeks ago, and they're just going to write it up in a Word document and do it that way. And then when the website's ready, they'll put it in the website.
Right.
But I think, yeah, we'll definitely be ready.
Okay. All right. Anything else on this issue from anyone? No? Okay. Action items then. We have a request for, speaking of School improvement plans, we have a request. So we're gonna hear from Mrs. Bell.
I'm wondering if this isn't the greatest day to ask for this.
It's a good thing you're asking before next meeting, because then you had to have a plan.
So I'm here to actually ask for an exemption for a school community council, and I want to explain why. And, because I know that's not traditional and kind of the steps that I've taken to try to figure this out. And I apologize that this is at this point in the year. I think I was given different information, and it's been a very difficult process, I think, to get accurate information exactly what this looks like. So the law or the policy allows for an exemption, and it's actually written in for special schools. I think there's a reason for that. One, it's very difficult to get parents to participate on our councils. I go to every other month, I go to a special principals meeting, which is for principals who are principals of all of the special schools in the state of Utah, and all of them are under an exemption. It's very challenging to get parents. And one of the reasons for that, I think, is that our parents are so occupied in the day-to-day care of their child that adding another meeting or another something is challenging for them. And this year, as I started doing this, I was faced with a couple of challenges with that. Mike, in trying to appease the law and try to do it, was trying to find somebody. So one of my parents has been on for 6 years, and she expressed to me the reason is because Mike can't find anybody else to do it.
Which is breaking the law.
Yeah, you're right, there's a time limit you can serve.
Right, but other than not having.
I know, yeah,
And
right.
so then there's the other parent who now went to full-time, now that her child's care has eased a bit, she can do that, with many of our parents are doing that to offset costs. And the other 4 members of my community council have been parents of adult clients. And so as Darren and I talked at the first of the year, he felt that did not meet kind of the law.
It's not just his feeling, it does
It's
not.
really-
It does not, right. And.
Good feeling, Darren.
There's a first.
Yeah, and the parent was the chair, actually approached me at the first of the year as one who actually handed me the exemption and said she'd located the law and said, this is where you can have an exemption for that. I wasn't I had found out the information that I had to have board approval for that until about 2 weeks ago.
We were not told that. We've been talking about this for a while, and
Yes.
I've talked to the state, and they never mentioned anything about needing board approval. They just said, just do it. And then all of a
It depends on who
sudden,
you ask.
out of the blue,
What day? Right, it's been a challenge to just get the accurate information, even with special principals, is kind of how does that fit? I am by no means trying to avoid parent input, which I think is the heart of the school community council and getting their views and what they feel like should be happening. I'd like to propose that I could do that, I think in an actual better way than meeting 3 times a year. That is actually one of the things we're targeting in my carbon growth cycle, is to try to improve parents, getting information from parents in a feasible manner that doesn't overwhelm them. So I think I mentioned this last time I was here at our parent-teacher conference, and we are going to be talking to them about our assessment that we're doing and try to get their input on that. And something that I thought as I heard this, and how I can try to still get input and talking to special principals. I think I'm going to try to do something they do at every IEP meeting, because all of our students are on an IEP. That's reviewed annually. They just have a little survey that they collect, and at that meeting, while the parent is there, because that's what they've made time for, can we just get their input on the needs of our school and kind of what they see as the focus for that, to do that. I think the other part of it is, the reason there's an exemption is we don't fall typically exactly in the lines of a school lands trust. You're supposed to target reading and math, and now this year they've eliminated or made it more difficult with the behavior, making that a focus, which has been always the way that we can do that at Castle Valley Center. Now we're making that more challenging. And so I'm doing that under the direction of Dr. Hatch. I'm having my school team address that, trust lands, reviewing that. So we're doing that data entering and how can we incorporate that and use that money to actually target the specific goals that actually supports our carbon growth cycle in addition to that. for example, we're gonna be really focusing on some life skills, using that life skills that actually targets functional reading and math, by doing kind of a life skills cooking. Every week, learning how to read some cards, recipes, follow instructions, and so we're trying to find ways to meet that, but also make it
Can I sign
functional.
my husband up for that?
Yes. 4 steps, 4 ingredients.
Yeah, perfect.
Anyway, so for me today, I'm
Only,
asking.
only if you chair the school community.
I do have one question.
Sure.
So when you're saying that, how would you determine, would you say it would be staff determine how the funds would be used? Because I know you're saying you'd get some input from the parents, but of course it would be difficult to train them and all that in just an IEP session. But so would that be coming from staff more than parents?
I think as a staff, we would be talking about that and then reviewing our parent input as part of that as we go forth and start collecting that and saying, where do the parents feel our focus needs to be, and now how can we make that meet trust funds?
So it'd be a joint.
Absolutely.
What they indicated to me though is ultimately it's the school team, their leadership team that would end up actually
Looks like that.
writing the goals and everything, taking into consideration all the other information.
Would your parents be willing to put their suggestions on paper, in writing? I don't care if it's on paper or electronically, but you know what I'm saying? So you have a written record and you can, rather than word of mouth, because word of mouth
Oh.
sometimes gets changed or.
Absolutely. I anticipate either having the teacher complete a little survey document and writing their responses,
Perfect.
or what some of the special schools principals up to state have done, which I kind of like for our group of parents that we can do this with. They have a Google form that they just click on, the teacher hurry fills out, or the parents, I think they're capable of doing that. I also see the purpose of that for some of, we're learning a lot with COVID and virtual and tech. That could also just be sent to some parents if they were not coming in or we're not having them present. We can also send something kind of like that to kind of gather their input.
As I read this, it says that we can grant the exemption, but it says that you can use program funds without having school community council if the school demonstrates and documents a good faith effort to, 1, recruit members, 2, have meetings, 3, publicize the opportunity to serve on the council. So we need to document that, but my question is that annually? So do we have to
Yeah,
grant
that's-
this exemption annually?
That was a question I was gonna come up with is this for now and forever? Or is this, you're gonna come back every year and say, okay, this is what we tried to do this last year, we can't get people to serve.
It sounds like the documentation, the intent is annual.
I think my understanding, again, I have mixed information. My understanding is once we have the exemption, we have the exemption. And we have to then just demonstrate. So I intend, I'm gonna be honest, it's not risen and I'm still learning how to do my school website. I plan to have a spot there, just that we say that. I can see sort of annual parent-teacher conference, sending out we're going to thrill share or sending out an email or posting. I'm still willing to do all of that. Mike was doing all of that. That has been done. It's just.
I think we'd like you to
I'm
be,
happy to do that.
I myself, I don't know, go ahead, Wayne.
I'd imagine we can word the motion to be forever if annually they meet this criteria.
I would like to see how it goes, though. I would like to see a year and have them come back with some feedback of how did that work before we.
Yeah, I think the intent is from the wording.
And I would like to have a little more proactivity in encouraging a community council people to serve than just saying, oh, it's on our website. They can see it if they'll go there. Nobody goes to websites,
Sure,
school websites,
sure.
especially when it's buried. But
And I think another option I can offer too is if I do have a parent, the challenge comes in getting that ratio.
Uh-huh.
And I'm willing to say if we can get a parent to even just come and participate in the
Well,
meeting.
it would be interesting if you could include that discussion or invitation in your IEP meetings. So
Right, so I'm hoping that I can try to,
Because if you have parents the next year that are interested in that,
I
it
don't
would
want
be
to
nice.
deny them all.
We don't want to, not have that.
I agree. I guess just I don't know, I'm anticipating, I'm not sure that I would ever get the balance of the 6 to 2. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so as a board, if you feel like I needed to, if a parent is willing, I'm happy to have them come and be.
Well, we still need to meet the law. And so if you get 4, then you still qualify for.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. And
So what do you think about if we grant an exemption for the first 2 years, this year, and then an opportunity to work on it, and so that by the end of the second year, you're ready to either bring us the documentation that I have no interest, and you've met all those criteria,
Sure.
and then you can come back and we can say, okay, we'll give you another 2 years, or we'll go with 3 years this time.
Sure.
I can have that on, I made a note to put that on the agenda for next year at this time, so that she can report back on that.
yeah. I think
Absolutely.
that'd be helpful.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm really not trying to get out of doing it. I'm struggling with, I have to meet these requirements and I don't know how I'm gonna get people to do that.
Well, I think it's still important. We would like you to come before the board with the rest of the schools and say, this is what we plan to use
Sure.
our trust lands.
Right.
Yeah.
We still have to approve the funds.
That requirement, none of those
I just had
requirements
one of
are
my
changed.
meetings this past week and that's
Yeah,
exactly what we
okay.
talked about. We talked about exactly, and like I said, I think, I feel like we have a really good plan to kind of meet
Just
that.
an exemption for the actual community council. group.
That's the only exemption. I still have to do the plan, it still has to tie. it's
Still has
all
to be
that.
on the website, everything.
Yeah, we just don't have the school council requirement, just the minutes and setting up and things like that. But we still have to meet and develop what that is.
Any other questions, comments? No? Okay, then we are looking for a motion to approve a, what is the word?
Exemption.
An exemption, there you go, from school community council requirement.
I'll make the motion that we approve an exemption for Castle Valley Center from the school community council for a period of 2 years,
With an annual.
and then
With an
have them
annual
come
report.
back and review at that time.
Okay, any questions on the motion? Oh, let's see, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, oh, we have a motion by Melissa, we have a second by Keith. Any questions on the motion? Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy, and we also agree that you are a special principal.
You know more better than anybody.
All right, now the fun begins. I think we're gonna have to have that list of capital outlay projects
I will relinquish my control to.
brought up again.
Gotta wake him up over there first.
Now's where the time when we come to make the decision on things. Now, for those who are newer on the board, you do have the option of saying, my motion would be to pull this item that's higher down lower and move this one up. We've done that in the past. You have that option if you want to do that in a motion. We don't have to just adopt the document as it's written. So, any discussions about what we want to do on capital outlay? Remember, we're talking about the pool in the next item.
Okay, I would like to know from those of you that went on the tour, I would be interested in knowing the condition of the cabinets that we're talking about replacing.
In which cabinets?
All of them in
Okay,
the
in the
elementary
various
schools. Uh-huh,
Elementaries, I think, are the ones that are.
yes, it was the elementary
Yeah,
schools,
so-
because I would like to put those on the bottom.
Down below?
And I'd like them on the top.
Yeah, Lee's been us before and have gone and seen.
Some of these were repeat items, like the cabinet. So part of the problem is the original installation of the cabinets, the doors they're huge. They're almost, and so they sag, and so they try to reinforce them, and then they're torn through.
Okay.
And so that's
That's
part
what I
of the
was
problem.
asking, was the
Yes.
condition.
Yes,
was-
it's been many years that we've looked at these and we started going through each of the schools and trying to replace those. And so we've put different schools each
Yeah, it's
year to
kind-
do that. It's been
kind
an
of a commitment
ongoing,
that we've made that we're going to do school by school.
and we're probably getting
So
close.
Castle Heights and Creekview are completed, so they didn't have it on this year.
Right, it's,
And then Wellington.
and then Sally Morrow has one more pod of
and
cameras.
then-
Yeah, so we're getting
Sally Morrow has
close.
2 of their 3 pods done, and they've got 1 more to go.
And then the one on line 27, those are in the band room there, that was actually a line item last
Right,
year,
last year, yeah.
and we didn't fund it.
And it's pretty unsightly.
We, actually, last year's, we approved it with an estimate that the school provided us.
Oh,
Then they
okay.
went out and
Got some bids
got
and,
bids and found out their estimate was way under what really was required. So they've come back with that, we just didn't do anything on that one.
okay.
So I think we approved it for 10,000 last year.
And I guess that's something important to note too. For example, if, let's use the band instrument storage system again. Yeah, right now we're budgeted for 35. If the low bid, if they bid it and the low bid comes in at 50,000, we're gonna say, which one, what other thing do you want to give up?
Uh-huh.
Or do we just not do it again?
Can you scroll up so
Yep.
we can see the ones above 23 or
Kind
24?
of start at the top of the, start at the top of the list, and
Yeah.
I'll let you kind of review those, and I'll scroll down in a second.
Another one I have a question about is the playground equipment at Broom Point. Are they lacking equipment? I mean, I didn't go out on that thing, but I hate to see a school not having what they need in playground equipment. Are they going out there and the kids don't have anything to play on?
Well, what happened was there was some equipment that didn't pass the inspection, so it was pulled out
And never replaced.
and never replaced.
So what does, I mean, I just,
But that was a while, it's been a while, and now they're coming back around. Okay.
so they must be
It's
saying
been a
they don't
while.
have enough equipment. And I worry about those if they're going out there playing, they don't have anything to play on.
And we have a similar situation at Wellington, that Wellington received some playground equipment from
Head Start.
Head Start, which isn't,
It isn't age appropriate.
yeah. And that needs to be removed and then something appropriate put in.
So those kinds of things concern me if we're not giving them what they need.
So on the playground equipment, the others are above. Room Points are above the Mont Harmon expansion. Room Points is the one that is below.
$1672, 1657.
So if we draw the line at 1.707, that gets that.
It does, but do we need the other 30,000 with it?
What are
The two above it?
These.
the desks, the desks and the chairs.
And actually, I don't know how often they use that sound system at Creekview.
The sound system
But it-
works, it's just too sophisticated for them to figure out.
And for what, really what they need. I mean, it worked during their spelling bee and different things like that. It's just, it's kind of a pain, but
Okay.
I will say.
It's a pretty sophisticated system.
can we give them a $500,000 parking lot and pass on the sound system for
I
a
was
year?
gonna say, on the principal's ranking, which we hid to make it all fit here, of his projects, he ranked that lower. He would
The sound
prefer
system. Sound
you lean
system.
towards the others
And-
before the sound.
And isn't the marquee down lower too?
Yeah,
Yes.
Marquee's below it.
Yes, the marquee is below.
So-
The one
And
thing
we'd
about the
be
marquee,
smart to put all the infrastructure underneath
That's
to
what I-
get
Yes,
there.
that is in the
Parking
plan.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
they
in the
will
plan.
And that can be part of the parking lot expansion.
that is factored into that
Yeah. And
parking
then-
lot cost.
Put the marquee up the next year.
Or if you end up coming in under?
So could you go back up to the
So,
top
do you
again?
remember, I will, just
Okay.
1 second, do you remember in the discussion, price, they had a question of a drainage system that they put a $60,000 line item on them, Joseph DeMille did, and said they're not sure if Price City will require this or not. If it's not required, it'll drop that project by 60,000. Keith couldn't stay, but his question was, if we end up not having to do that, if the marquee doesn't get approved and we don't have to spend that $60,000, do you think the board would allow us to move forward with the marquee?
I'd want him to come back.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I would suggest he comes back to
Yeah.
ask, yeah.
We'll keep it posted.
Yeah, because at the same time, I mean, remember last year, he came back and argued for his
Counselor.
ranking.
Yeah.
That's always an option, but we don't want it to be the general practice. So,
Yeah, Lee, you asked. if
To
I
go
could-
back to the top again,
Yes.
I guess another thing I'm looking at is every school getting something.
Oh,
Yeah, I
You
can
That's
sort
what I
these
found.
by,
Boy, it's almost straight down the line.
well, that,
Everybody gets it right at the first.
Yeah,
Oh,
but they're
this-
very, they're,
that's
then
not,
loses
that's,
what they have
Security.
in local.
messes
level.
everything.
So I'll go back to.
Just have to kind of scroll through there.
Yeah.
and see.
Where's
But it-
Burlington, where's Bruin?
Everybody's getting something.
well, they're just, they're,
There-
but they're very small security items. I'm just wondering if there's something that, make sure that, I would just like to see the schools.
Which
And
speaks to
maybe
get
more
that.
telling
One
is
point, put the line at
not
1.7,
getting approved.
so we get that.
Well, but it still doesn't, does it?
What?
Yeah, it gets Bruin points. Go down one more.
Yeah,
Keep
if we
going
drop
there.
down to there and then you're
Keep going.
saying,
That,
take out
See, there's
the,
Bruin Point right there, 31.
take out 20,
I'm
move
kind of
that
hearing
up.
you leapfrog line 31 up to where line 30, where line 29 is. Is that what you're saying?
No, that didn't work. My
You
number-
didn't change
my
your
number
numbers.
didn't adjust, yeah.
It stayed the same.
But yeah, so that would be 1,692,000.
Yeah.
Or
Well, no, it would be
677,
677,
yeah. Sorry, I was-
1677.
1677.
Okay, any other swapping, trading, arm wrestling?
My only thing is I'm good with this, I just have a hard time throwing the swimming pool into the mix.
And that's, that,
You know, and I think
I
they're all-
don't think there's any other way to look at it than the swimming pool needs to come out of the savings. I don't want to jeopardize what we're looking at here for an add-on project. I think an add-on project needs to be dealt as an add-on project.
So you're saying two separate discussions?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we put the line here, and then do we want to spend $300,000 to $600,000 out of our savings for the pool?
And it is separated out that way in our agenda as well.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So Keith, any questions about capital outlay? No. Melissa?
I've asked my.
Hunter, any questions about capital outlay?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Lee,
No, it looks good to me like that.
anything else, Wayne?
It looks plenty beat up to me.
Okay, then, we can put this to bed with a motion.
I move that we put the line wherever it was.
He's gonna try to type in the motion.
What are you trying to influence here? Now we may want to rethink all of it. We may want to rethink all of this. 1,677.
Okay.
And
I don't know
it's
what that number
Thanks.
was.
That's what I
line
moved.
26 or
We're
something.
we're gonna end at the Mont Harmon's
Expansion.
project,
Well,
expansion
Because
plus.
he moved the Bruin Point
Plus
on the
Bruin
left.
Point's playground
Yeah,
equipment.
moving Broom Point just behind that, and that's where we're drawing the line. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, now I gotta go.
We'll give you a couple of
5,
minutes,
4.
because that was a couple motion.
677. 20.
Just below Mont Harmon.
Okay, did we get a second on
We
that?
have a second by Melissa. So motion by Wayne, second by Melissa. To approve the capital outlay down to including Mount Harmon Middle School lunchroom expansion and move up the Broom Point playground equipment for an amount of $1,677,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any question on the motion? Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? It passes unanimously.
Can I say something real quick?
Uh-huh.
Just, since I've been here, this process has evolved.
Yes,
Just
it has.
since
And
I've
I still want to
witnessed
go back to Lee and Melanie's
Yeah.
work on this.
And it was a little shoddy, I have to say, my first year. I wondered, how in the world does this work? But it's come a long way, and I think it's a nice process. I really like the rankings that the board does and the priorities and everything, and all of Darren's work and Carrie's to get those,
Yes, thank you.
those estimates. Anyway, I just think it's a great process.
Okay, thank you.
It's so much better than what it will
Probably
believe us.
6, yeah.
And I credit Melanie and Lee.
But it was
for
these
doing
guys that put
but
these
yeah,
together.
Don't want to leave out the
Yeah,
guys who did all the work.
yeah. Darren put all that together too. That was wonderful.
Price City Pool Project. We've been given a proposal by Price City to participate in the upgrade of the indoor pool. I thought it interesting in this discussion. We kind of got lost in some of the ancillary parts of their operation. But I think it needs to be pointed out that we're really talking about the indoor pool, not the wave pool.
We're not adding a splash pad.
Yeah, all those things would be nice.
Yeah.
So,
to make sure that Jeff's prediction comes true, I would like to make a motion that we support this project at $600,000.
okay, we have a motion by Mr. Woodward.
Do we need to say,
You can just be quiet.
Just don't say nothing.
So it has been moved that we participate as requested by Price City in the amount of $600,000. Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion will die for lack of second. Now it's time for us to have another discussion.
I would like to see that they go out and look for some other funds and come back with that information, saying I went here and here and here and.
Well, the concern is the construction timeline.
I would like to see us give them some out of the savings and then still ask them to go and get more. And then I don't know if it's a possibility for them to come back if they don't and get the rest.
Well, maybe not get the rest, but
We
make
ask
another
for-
presentation and
ask
see
for
if we
more.
feel like we can do any more.
Right.
Because then it would be on them to show their efforts of trying to find more
Correct.
funds. Yeah.
I think we can shorten that time. I think there is a window, but we can shorten that time by stipulating that we're going to commit to this much. And then we'd like a report for any other participation that there might be by 6 weeks from today or whatever.
Well, let's do it at the next board meeting.
No, and that's fine, but that's what I'm saying. Give them the time to at least approach the county and see what the disposition of other entities who are benefited by the upgrade.
And then it might even benefit them to say, the school district is throwing in
Yeah.
300,000 or
Yeah.
400,000, 300,000, whatever. Can you help out? So,
And I'd be glad to make a motion. I don't really feel like I have a handle as far as whether that number be 300,000 or 400,000. Yeah, I know. 2 or whatever.
I see how you
Well,
are.
then you can compromise back at the 3 or 4.
So that's where we're at is in the discussion, and when you feel
And I
like,
think we all agree with the fact that we would like to see some effort other than just coming to the school board.
Yeah, that's, I think that's where all of us are just having a hard time.
Now, they had considered the CIB and determined they'd already been told no proactively by the CIB.
A while ago, though.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I didn't express this when they were here, but the numbers they have here, I don't know that they reflect the engineering study they had done these years ago. Because, well, for example, it says, a few years ago, Price City completed an engineering evaluation of several buildings. Okay, now down here, they have these numbers, and I'm assuming that the years ago was that, yeah, you need to do something with your pool, but they didn't, and the numbers today are new numbers?
I
I'm
can answer
assuming?
that, because we had actually wanted to bring this proposal, the detail of this proposal the month prior than we did, but Brett was still waiting on bids, estimate
Bunch
numbers
of
to
numbers.
come in, so these are very recent.
Okay.
Okay, good to know.
And I think the Murtha system is a relatively new system too, by his description saying
Yeah, they
people
don't-
have had it, the word's still out, they don't know, haven't had
Yeah,
it long
and I-
enough to see if it's gonna hold up or
I
not.
think the shop could probably be better way to go.
And I appreciate them coming back with the option 2 as their recommendation instead of the Cadillac to start with.
Right.
I move to approve 200,000.
We have a motion by Lee to approve,
Where's my pencil sharpener?
to approve the request to the city in the amount of 200,000. Did you want to put anything added to that? $200,000?
Well, and with them coming back to us, with further needs or, with an update of, them being able to go out and see what they can get from other
Okay.
entities.
So just to restate, your motion is granting them $200,000 with the request they go out and try to find additional funding, and
Mhm.
then in the event they can't come back and make another proposal.
Mhm, yes.
Okay? Everybody understood that motion? So we have a motion by Lee. Do we have a second? We have no second, so the motion will die for lack of second.
I will make a motion.
Hunter, this is why you study civics.
Yeah. In a compromise that we mimic the wording of Lee's motion with the amount at $300,000.
So we have a third motion by Wayne that we offer them $300,000, ask them to go find additional funding from other agencies or entities, and in the event that they cannot be secured, they can come back. And
Is there a date on that motion at the next board meeting?
At the next board meeting.
I would almost suggest we give them 60 days.
If that's what they want.
Really?
That's gonna be, they have all summer. If it's only gonna take 2 months to build, then.
Well, and they can do
coming
it
back-
quicker than that. If we say 60 days and they do
Yeah,
it
they can
in.
come back as early
Yeah,
as they can.
Come back earlier.
Come back
that's
next
fine.
month, yeah.
Restate the motion. Please.
Restate
All
the
of
motion.
that at 60 days.
60 days.
Okay, that's all.
I
Just
move,
clarifying the dates.
I move that we participate with Price City in their indoor pool renovation remodel at $300,000 and request that they go out and investigate other methods of receiving financing for this pool from other entities, from other entities to grants. And Then if there's a shortfall, to come back within 60 days.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Wayne. We have a second to the motion by Melissa. Any questions on the motion or any further discussion?
So I have a question, unless I'm misunderstanding how this works. So we had that total, what was it at, 1.9 was how much money we had? And then we just spent 1.6?
1.7.
1.7 to
Yeah,
round
right.
it off. So then we'd be taking 100,000 from the savings is all, because we use the rest of that 200, or how does that work?
Yeah, pretty much.
You can say it that way.
Okay.
Either we're banking 200
And then pulling 3 out.
Yeah.
or pulling 3 out.
So for all
or
intents and
pull 100
purposes,
out.
we're pulling 100,000 out of the savings.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I understood that.
No, you're good. Good point. Okay, very good. Good questions. Any other questions? Those in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
I'm sanding off my
Motion passes. Okay.
Wayne loves a good battle.
That's right. Especially when we can compromise. Then it's a victory. It's not
Well,
winning.
Here's a funny thing. So earlier when we had the discussion
Yeah,
on school fees, we just passed it.
I
You just approved it. That's all right.
Went right there.
Okay.
Just,
Just-
I revel in this, Jeff.
Do that.
Not that I noticed it right.
Don't
not-
listen to these two.
Yeah.
Just cut and paste.
Not that I didn't notice it when it happened, no. But I was waiting my time.
All right. That means we are down to the consent agenda. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? And are there any corrections or changes to the minutes?
Can I ask a question?
You
On one of
may.
them?
Yeah.
On the new hires, the fourth one down, is that dad or son?
Hold on just a second here.
I'm just curious. I don't know.
Boy, I don't know if it's the internet or if it's my computer, but something is really slow.
Where's the dad's son, though?
The fourth name down.
I have no idea.
I do not
I don't
know.
know. I do.
Okay,
Do you
yeah, I
know,
was just curious.
Stacy?
Sorry, what?
I think
I
so.
don't have the
Sorry.
agenda, I don't know what you're looking at, so.
You don't have.
Can I look at it?
Well, you can look at the new hires on the board agenda that you pull up.
Or you,
We'll get to it.
or Stacy, walk up here real
The
quick.
name on
I'm
the
sorry,
name
can you
of
pass
business
her my
employees
slip?
is public information, and so if it's just a clarification of who the individual is, I don't think it'll be a problem.
Okay, all right.
That is the son.
The son, okay.
Yeah, working.
Is he in education program?
Exploring that,
Okay,
yes.
all right. Okay, that's all.
Okay. So we have no questions then about anything on the consent agenda. We'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion by Keith to approve the consent agenda, minutes as written. Do we have a second? We have a second by Lee. Thought I was gonna die for like a second.
Yeah.
Don't do bad habits.
I was
Just satisfied.
just let me sweat a little bit, not that it hasn't happened before.
Okay. We have a motion to second. Any questions or discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
And opposed? All right, Superintendent, anything else we haven't talked about that we need to?
No.
Okay, anybody from the public, last time to make a comment? If not, we'll take a motion to adjourn
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
at 6:34 PM. Thank you very much.
Thanks. It is interesting that next board meeting is April 14th after the April 10th day.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, so we'll see.
Yes.
We'll have a lot shaken out by
Yeah.
then.
Yep.
Shooken out. by
Shooken
then. But that was good clarification on the athletics and the COVID and numbers in the
Okay,
school.
thank you.
I've been asked that too. and
Yeah,
I said, well, I'll find an answer out, but here's my speculation. I wasn't quite wrong.
Yeah,
I was
that's
close.
kind of a twist I
I
hadn't
was close.
considered.
If you'd like to see that video with the narration,
Yeah.
it's on the district website.
Oh,
I don't know what was wrong with sound, because it all works
On the
fine.
district, but not the school,
Well,
but
it's
the
on,
district.
it's on the district's website.
It didn't work on board.
It's on the Facebook site and it's on my company's.
4:33.
Thank you.
The balloon.
She did a really nice job of narrating and telling about what it was about.
3 cents 4. Ooh,
What's
she's
that?
working hard.
Thank you for coming and keeping us
I
honest.
think this is 3.
You're welcome.
But she does have it.
It doesn't happen until you
This
get 4 or
morning.
5.
She does have it in the room.
Thank goodness,
Yeah,
okay. well,
she did.
So yeah, and she has slept
Nice to see you.
through some of this.
How's her blood pressure?
Yeah.
No baby yet?
See you, Jamie.
I'm sure if her blood pressure reached danger, they would have just taken it.
Yeah, I'm assuming that